Welcome to the GreatBase Tennis Podcast, episode 184. I'm Steve Smith, along with Ivan Ozerets.
Hello.
We're coming to you almost live from Wintergreen, Virginia. Tell us about today's weather, Wintergreen, Virginia, Ivan.
Snowy, sunny. It's beautiful. Fresh snow. Snowed yesterday afternoon and nighttime.
Yes, I was going to say, coming to you almost live. That's what Chevy Chase used to say. That was a treat many years ago, working for Vic Braden. Had a chance to spend a lot of time coaching Chevy Chase. Coming to you almost live. So we're going to call England. Luis Perez was here a couple weeks ago. Time flies. Maybe it was more than that. It seems like
weeks ago, yeah.
Seems like yesterday. Keeping track of time. But let's call him up. Dedicated tennis teacher, came all the way over, spent some time with us, and we're going to have a conversation and hope that we have some, what do we say, golden nuggets for one's tennis treasure chest. Luis, great guy.
Hello.
Luis.
Hi.
Thank you for being a guest on the GreatBase Tennis Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. And thank you for hosting me as well when I was there three weeks ago.
Yeah, we'll talk about your visit. Luis Perez, I've got down here in my notes, pretty worldly guy. Father's from Cuba, mother's from Peru. You were born in Slovakia. You live in England.
Right.
Your wife is from the Ukraine. We met you in the US of A. Your father lives in Denmark. Your grandmother's in Belgium. I know some guys in this great town that I grew up in. I don't think they've ever left the town. You know, live and let live. But that's covering quite a few countries. We have to go with your name, though. You're in England. You're known as Lewis.
Lewis, yeah. Even I say Lewis. I get called out myself, but it's Louis.
But why don't you give us your four names? Luis.
So full name is Luis Ernesto. So that was actually named. We spoke briefly about the Cuban Revolution. That was named after Ernesto Che Guevara, which probably is not the best thing to mention in the US. So it's Luis Ernesto Perez Torrilla.
Wow.
Andy Roddick would always say, if you have three names, that means you're a really good clay courter. But your tennis didn't start on the red clay courts of Slovakia. Your tennis, tell us about that. You started in England, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I've actually only played on real clay once in my life. That was just a tennis holiday that we hosted in Spain. But yeah, I grew up on pretty much tarmac. Tarmac courts, macadam, I think they're called in England. Yeah.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in England and Ireland, but tarmac, how I would define that as rough asphalt. It's like playing on the road.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly.
And one of the reasons it's that way is because of all the rain, correct?
Well, we actually we're moving away from tarmac. A lot of the tennis clubs are putting in artificial clay, so it's cheaper than clay because you don't have to maintain it. It's artificial clay, and it's actually much better in the rain. So if it rains a little bit, it doesn't get slippery. You're always pretty sure-footed on it. Whereas no one really wants to use the hard courts now in the winter because if it rains, it can be okay, but it does feel a lot more slippery. So I feel like a lot of the clubs have now kind of found a bit of a solution to the constant rain is putting in artificial clay and people still play even when it's a bit wet.
Well, in between though, it was artificial grass, correct?
Yeah, artificial grass, which is is like it's an experience playing on that. I mean, it must be close to what it felt like when I don't know. I've mentioned it. I'm sorry, I've heard you say it on the podcast a few times, which I wasn't aware of. There was even tennis matches on wooden floors, right?
Right. Yeah, I think right in London, if you go over to the Queen's Club and go inside, I'm sure. It was from a historical point of view. I'm sure it's still there. There's a couple, at least one. There's a real court from way back when, the hour-shaped tennis court. But then there's at the Queen's Club indoors. There's a wood surface.
pretty sure you're right. I think I've heard someone mention that. Yeah, they still have one. Yeah.
No, I can remember being in Tyler, Texas, and we helped out this small private school. One of the reasons, a self motive, was I had keys to the place in the summertime when the school was closed, and they had two gyms. They had an old gym with a wooden surface, and then they had a newer gym with a tartan surface. And we had the industrial portable net, and to have kids go play. Even in the summertime, we would go get out of the sun, and you're going to have a short, compact. I mean, the so-called tabletop return helps out quite a bit on wood. But the artificial grass, I was never a big fan of that. And they played so differently based on the amount of sand that was in the court.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
What was the grass made of? Artificial grass, like some type of plastic?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is some sort of form of plastic, but it almost feels a bit like a carpety plastic, if you know what I mean, if that makes sense. And then it's got it's got sand on top.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I actually taught a little bit at a club, and I remember just thinking this club had it just had artificial grass courts. That's it. And it was weird. Like, I've never seen a group of people have like different swings like to everyone else that I've ever seen. And I was my theory was that it must have been the artificial grass. They sort of slapped the ball rather than really work on top spin. It felt like they were slapping the ball, and I felt like it kind of somehow the artificial grass kind of rewarded that in a way. It was weird.
I would say that for me to define it, the artificial grass is like the beginning days of the cheap versions of AstroTurf. I know AstroTurf's really improved, but then a real tight industrial carpet. Actually, at the tennis house we have on one side, it's the Berber carpet. I would say that there was a difference, or there is a difference between the artificial grass and the carpet. But I would say the artificial grass was very dangerous for definitely promoted injuries. Mm-hmm. But I think you're right, though, as far as Slap City. In Dublin, the beautiful Fitzwilliams, they used to have grass. I remember first being there, and then it's a beautiful club. But that is they have artificial grass. I remember my son Connor, his mother's from Ireland, and he was over playing the Irish Nationals when he got to the finals, and started raining. He grabbed his bag and started to run off the court. The umpire said, "Where are you going?" They actually play in the rain. I remember riding a bike 50 miles to meet with a gentleman who was in charge of Irish tennis, and it was going from Roscommon County down to Galway, and it was the Irish Junior Championships. They were playing on tarmac, and it was raining, and they were playing. Tell us about the conditions in England. You teach tennis outdoors year round.
Yeah, year round outdoors, December. Yeah, last winter, there's pictures of us shoveling or trying to broom off the snow from the tennis courts to get some Saturday coaching in. So yeah, and today doing camp. We did 4-hour camp with the kids because they're on school holidays, and at least 2.5 hours of it was pretty much in the rain. But we kind of got to do it. We sort of carry on. Otherwise, if we stop, very little tennis gets played here in the winter, I guess. So yeah, it's bound to rain at some point, and we'll just play. Yeah.
So no such thing as a fair weather player, where you just play when the weather's nice. Kids.
California,
yeah. If you're in California and say you go to school in the Big Ten, say in the Midwest, and you're playing a match early spring, or I ask kids all the time, in this country, the girls generally play high school tennis in the fall, and the boys in the spring. It varies a few places, but so the girls in the fall, they start with nice weather and finish with bad weather, and the boys in the spring just the opposite.
That was bad and good. Yeah.
We
a lot of bad weather. We just have a lot of bad weather. We start with bad weather, finish with bad weather.
I've been in England a bunch, but I was only there one time in the winter, and it was nasty. I mean, there's one thing about rain, but cold, wet, rainy days are, I think, much more difficult to deal with than a nice snowy day like we had today.
Yeah, I think it's the humidity just makes the cold feel a little bit more intense. Like even when I went to Wintergreen, when I first landed, it was cold. It was cold, like temperature-wise, it was colder than England, but it didn't feel as cold as England. It's weird. It's like the cold in England kind of like really hits you like inside, like internally in your bones. Yeah, it's weird. Humidity, I think. I don't know.
So the popularity of tennis in England, you go back to Tim Henman or even before him or Andy Murray?
Yeah, no, I go back to Tim Henman. Yeah, Tim Henman, Greg Rosetsky. I think any country that has a Grand Slam is always going to be lucky in that. I think tennis is always going to be an important part of the calendar, the sporting calendar. So that we got that in the UK. But yeah, it kind of helps to have, like successful players like Tim Henman, Greg Rosetsky. Then, although I don't feel like the Brits ever sort of truly adopted Greg Rosetsky, they always kind of had him down as Canadian. But then Murray, I think Murray brought that success. That drought of no Wimbledon wins since I think it was Virginia Wade and men even longer, Fred Perry, I think. So that really, I think, got the country behind tennis. And then actually the other good one was the Davis Cup win with Murray as well. That did tennis here a lot of good, gave it a lot of popularity. And then even more recently, Raducanu for the girls, I think has been great. Her successes has sort of spiked the popularity a little bit again.
With Fred Perry, way back when in the 30s, and Virginia Wade, she found sunshine in South Africa. She spent many, many years in South Africa. I believe her father was a minister. With Greg Rosetsky, he grew up in Montreal. Actually, Danny Cooper, who we spent years with, actually worked with him when he was a younger player. But yeah, he adopted. I guess his mother is British, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And what's your day to day? You put a bunch of hours in. You're coaching 50+ hours a week.
Yeah, doing loads. So just yesterday, I managed to do 12. Monday, I did 12 straight, 10 to 10 straight. And then basically do kind of big Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday seem to be my busy days. Then do sort of slightly smaller Tuesday, Wednesday. I rest on Thursdays, but this week I'm going to do Thursday due to the camp. I try to play with them every day. So this week is a big one. This week is every single day out there for at least 8 hours each day. So it's going to be a long one. Bracing myself.
So what is a semester break for the school kids?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's we call it a half term. So it's not. I'm not sure if that's what you guys call semester. It's not quite the semester. It's kind of a half of that semester, and they usually get like a week break halfway through the semester.
We have something like that. We have spring break.
Yeah.
We get a week, a little bit over a week.
Yeah.
I mean, semester break is always here during the Christmas, New Year's time, and the high school kids get 2 weeks, and it's like the college kids get close to 4, almost a month. Before your dedication, that's how you found us. But let's go back to Emma Raducanu. How do you pronounce it?
Raducanu.
Yeah,
I think that's
Romanian name. With actually, we Americans are soft as far as we like listening to the Brits. I was listening a little bit today to the tennis podcast. Matt Roberts, David Law, and Catherine Whitaker. Do you listen to them at all?
I do listen to them. I play with her brother. So her brother is a member at our tennis club. So she's actually, I've played a couple of finals now against her brother. So she's come to watch our mixed doubles finals a couple of times because I've played against him. So it's been quite nice having them there. But I know them. Yeah, I listen to them as well.
You're too charming and too humble to go up to her and go, Am I the best tennis player you've ever watched?
Can you imagine that?
With
Spends time for the pros.
I mean, I listen to it. I certainly enjoy it. I don't think that, like, straight across the board, there's certainly not much on the nuts and bolts or the X's and O's. For us, the nuts and bolts is the technical side. The X's and O's is a strategy. But and I don't think it's filled with rumors, but sometimes rumors are more exciting. In fact, it's certainly some small talk, some chat on who's coaching who. It's kind of interesting. They are on top of like the Danish player. What's his name?
Rune,
where he's musical chairs right now with the coaches he's going through. It's interesting.
It's funny.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, they mentioned Jessica Pegula. She's from upstate New York, where I'm from, and I did reach out to Austin Krajicek, and he said that really most of the time is really up to the agents, and it's kind of hands off. Let the players choose. I was just saying, hey, Andy Fitzell or Raven Klaassen. I mean, there's some people I could recommend. But yeah, go ahead. The musical chairs. They talk about that but they keep you up. It's like and this is a positive. It's like a good newspaper report. They give you they update you on all the pro tournaments throughout the calendar year.
Yeah, so what I was going to mention is I can't, because those are literally basically this podcast, the GreatBase Tennis podcast and the tennis podcast are the only two. Well, actually, there was one I was delving into before as well, but right now they're the only two podcasts that I listen to. But they are literally polar opposites. Like I listen to them with complete different hats on, right? So GreatBase, I'm like constantly looking out for like really good information, stuff that makes sense to me, that I can learn from, that I can apply in my coaching. Just that, like you mentioned, the X's and O's. Whereas their podcast is more of like a tennis. I put my tennis fan hat on and try not to listen to their opinions on the game kind of thing, but more like the fan based stuff where like sort of like you said, the information on the musical chairs with the coaching and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of nice to get that insight into the game, into the pro game. But yeah, it's a complete different tennis hat that I'm wearing when I'm listening to them.
Yeah. With I go on long walks. I'm either making phone calls or listening to podcasts. I do tell kids though, I think sometimes it's just great to not be connected and just daydream. I think the kids are so engaged with their telephone that there's no time to just daydream a little bit. You're so dedicated. Why don't you talk about, I know you've been through the PTR, the LTA, and the RPT. We can go through that, but tell us about just discovering the GreatBase. I think actually with Ivan at the table, he's working around the clock to help us out and make things go, and it's just nice to know. And Ivan mentioned that there was no connection. In other words, you just stumbled upon it on your own. It's not like you knew someone who told you to do it. You just when you give us a few thoughts on discovering the GreatBase.
Yeah, I think stumbled is like the correct word for it. Basically, I planned it out this time, so to articulate this much better this time. So, it almost like in 3 stages. So, coaching in London. I kind of I'd say about a year and a half to 2 years ago, I kind of hit a wall, knowing that when it really came down to it, I couldn't honestly say that what I was teaching was correct or using the best method, or even if I had a method, basically. So, but always look to educate myself as well. So, and enjoy the process of educating. So, and most of it was done through YouTube. But it sort of kind of YouTube, you as you guys know, you can get a lot of sort of, it's not the most trusted source, I would say. But you can find some good stuff on there as well. And I don't exactly know, I can't quite recollect perfectly, like how I came across the GreatBase exactly. But what I do remember is just watching some of the videos and how they ended up sort of completely mesmerizing me, and just was super impressed by what I saw. You might know the videos, but I think one of the ones that that stands out for me is there's an Irish girl in it. She's teaching for juniors, and she's teaching forehand progressions, and like I basically couldn't believe how like systematic and methodical like her process was, and how organized the session looked. And even more impressively, like the juniors were being so organized. Up to that point, my junior sessions looked pretty chaotic. And as a result, there was like complete evidence of actual like learning happening. Whereas in my session, I was lucky if I could get them to sort of just listen to one sentence that I had to say to them, or stand in one spot and stay there. There's another one we actually spoke about it as well, Steve. The one with the serving drills. So I think you have a boy of like 8 to 9 years old, and you sort of go through like 12 serving drills. And again, just complete mind blowing, like how at the end of the video, how like correct his serve is looking, and at such a young age, in my head it wasn't. It's something that I didn't feel like was almost doable to have such a young kid hit such a good looking serve in a way. So basically seeing these videos, I was pretty much hooked. I knew that I wanted to see a lot more from you guys, and see a lot more information, and explore a lot more information. And that's when I looked into everything. So I looked into the website, I looked into the podcast and listened to all the podcasts. Went back to the first one, caught up with all the podcasts that you've done, all the way up to the last one with Sophia Patel, and just enjoy also getting a lot of the information from those podcasts, the golden nuggets that kind of give a lot of context to the information that I'm learning from you guys. And then with the information, I actually ended up doing the courses as well. So pretty much finished all the courses except for the intelligence applied, and I think I may have still a few videos left for the practice at home, but decided to go through all of them, and basically want to take that to even the third stage, which would be to go through all the podcasts again, and actually make some notes on it, and organize those notes, and take my understanding of the content to an even deeper level, and do that with the courses. And I also enjoyed the bibliography that you guys had on the website as well. So looking to get those books as well, and basically get understanding of the game that I'm actually trying to teach, rather than sort of feel like that I'm making it up. And I think that's been quite important, because I'm not sure if you guys remember, but I also was sort of mentioning that sort of like, I'd say about 2 years ago, I sort of thought that I've kind of exhausted my coaching career. I didn't think there was much more I could offer. So I was kind of looking into possibly going to school teaching and leaving tennis coaching. But, with actually coming across the information and even complementing that with the visit that I did to the GreatBase earlier this year, it's just kind of felt like, in a way, that I'm just like starting my coaching career from new, rather than feeling like I'm at the end of it. So in a way, it feels like, you guys have saved my coaching career. I think what you guys have is just incredible information in an organized sort of, like you guys mentioned, system of systems. I think that's what's really sort of stuck out in my mind, and I think that's what really attracted me to the information. So that's pretty much a little outline of my GreatBase journey that brings me right up to this point today.
No, it's great. Let me just appreciate you sharing that story with us. With Sophia Patel, that was an amazing podcast listening to her story. And obviously there's more layers to it, but she's going to start working with us. I think we're going to announce that.
Great news, yeah. Because you were mentioning when I was there that it was something that we were looking to do.
Yeah.
She's 24, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she's so much, like, part of me listening to that podcast, I was a bit like, if only I'd gone maybe like 2 weeks later, I would have met her. Like, it would have been so great to have a chat with her because she's mature beyond her age. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, she has tennis knowledge, but then also, the life, I guess, the handle on life, the knowledge on life, but then the ability to communicate. It was amazing. But one thing also you mentioned is the Irish gal that made the tapes. That was some time ago. She was being trained to be the camp director at Harvard, and the macho male ego in this country. I know it's not the same all across the globe, but I would say it's 85%, 90% men teaching tennis, the macho male ego. But we made a battery of those tapes. So when she went to run the orientation, I ran the orientation for 5 years, but then for 12 years, they discontinued the camp. It's been restarted in different ways, different coaches and such. But Dave Fish and his wife Bonnie, they used our curriculum, our pathway for exactly 12 years. So I was up there the first 5 to do the orientation. I always tease people and say I spoke during the Harvard commencement, not at the Harvard commencement, but during the Harvard commencement. But anyway, she made those. It was a dual purpose. One. It's just a skill set to be able to demonstrate and just take one progression to the next and build the lesson. But for her to run the orientation, I think it was much more powerful for her to be on screen because, she's at the time very young and the coaches were very young. And again, dealing with the macho male ego. Go ahead, Ivan.
Yeah, that story, I'm a ISFP going into brain typing, introvert, sensate, feeler, perceiver, and I go on these airport runs, and it's just an hour from where we are up in Wintergreen. It's an hour to the airport. The closest airport is in Charlottesville, and then an hour back. And I quite enjoy the trips because I usually don't know who I'm picking up. It's just somebody, like you, Luis, that, called in, wants to learn about tennis, and I pick them up, and I get to have a great conversation with them. And you told me your story that we just heard, and I was just, I was really moved by it because that's really what we're all about, is just trying to help people that are trying to become better players, become better teachers, that really are, I would say, lost in the game. And I think you defined it quite well, where you were kind of, and I was too as a player, and I just didn't know where to go and didn't have the information. And that's what the information is for, is for people. It's kind of like this light. And it's what we're just trying to provide more and more of it. So I pick you up, you tell me your story. I pick you up with one of your players as well, who is an amazing guy. And you guys spend the week with us. And you told us how both of you guys were so accepting of the information. Well, you were already introduced to it. You said you've listened to all the podcasts, which is quite an accomplishment there. That's just amazing to hear. And your player that came along was had no formal introduction to the information. He was just accepting of it, and he just, like you, very polite, and it was just great to have you guys around. And one thing I wanted to mention is you guys, especially your player, he had a hill, Haroon. We have a hill here, and you guys woke up every morning, and he instigated, and you joined along every day, and then you made us as well, like a join along. And so we all went for runs in the morning to this beautiful lookout, and it was great. And one thing is that we got there, and first thing you did, boom, and you started working out right away. And we were there to do that. But, after the short run, we were all kind of lazy looking at the lookout. We were like, talk for a little bit, but you were straight into the workout, like no time to waste. And it was great. I mean, it just hats off. Thank you. A lot of thank yous your way. And you just...
Oh, no, man.
No,
honestly, I mean,
great.
Thank you, though. You guys like made the experience great. I think one of the things we'll also be honest is that I think I could get straight into the exercises was because I lagged so far behind you guys. I was like about 2 minutes behind you guys that you guys probably, I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys run it with much more, like exerting much more energy. I was snail pace up that hill. So I had plenty of left for exercises. Yeah. No, but I think, I mean, yeah, I'm like really pleased you mentioned that. Like, that's what you guys try and do with like try and shed a light and try and sort of, if there are any people sort of kind of, lost, because I can't emphasize that enough. Like, my wife knows this because I spoke to my wife a lot about this. I was looking for courses to go into teaching in schools, and I really thought I'd come to the end of the teaching career, and like now, and it was partly also seeing Steve. Steve, sorry, like I don't want to, like going into your 60s, right? Like, and still teaching. I didn't think that was possible as well. I thought, and then just seeing him do that, I'm like, okay, right. So this is something that I can really learn to do well and do for the rest of my life. And when I come to the end of it, I could say, this is what I specialize in, and so I'm like super, super motivated right now to just immerse myself into it and go for it. So and that's all down to the GreatBase. And the other thing is that, I mean, it's just incredible. It's like, it was all for free. Like, I was going through all this information and you guys hadn't charged me a penny. And I was like, I was copying all your stuff, like, and just teaching it to my students, and I hadn't paid a penny for this information. And, we do CPDs here, like you guys, and, I'm having to do them every year, and, I'm paying money for these things, and realize that the best information I got was for free. It's amazing. It's like, I feel just super blessed to have somehow stumbled across you guys, because that's the word actually Steve used was, I stumbled across. I wasn't, no one recommended it.
Luis, you just mentioned some letters, the CPT, what was that?
Oh, CPD, the sort of, what do you call it?
Certification or?
Yeah, it's to do with your certification. So
Okay.
Educating, basically, you got to commit to get an LTA license. You got to commit to, a certain number of hours of CPD, of career progression, I think it's called, or something like that. Yeah.
Let me ask Ivan a question. With you mentioned brain typing, and I know some people take shots at us. It's not scientifically validated, but it's a great learning tool. Do you brain type the guess that you drive back up the mountain?
Yeah, I've been getting better. Yeah. I try and make it a game, see how fast I can brain type them. I'm not sure. I'm not great at it. I just started, but I'd make my own guesses and see if they're accurate throughout their stay, and maybe I refine the guesses. And
let me say one
Can
thing.
you guess mine?
Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
So as Ivan guessed mine.
Yeah, I could try and guess yours. I know it's. I believe it's an I. I think it's an N. I think it's feeler or thinker. Feeler or thinker. I'm not quite sure.
You guys are pretty close.
I'd guess an F. Yeah. Perceiver, judger. I'd say you're a perceiver. Why? Because I think you enjoy spending time. I think your energy, you get your energy from being more alone than with other people. And N, well, that's just what we've been talking about. You're looking towards the future. You're seeing yourself coaching for quite a while, and you're invested. And feeler, just the way you speak about. I remember when I dropped you off, we had a couple conversations over lunch, and just the words you use and the way you act, it's very close to the way I as a feeler as well would use words and talk about situations in my life. And then perceiver, organized and unorganized, or not as organized, judge or perceiver. It was very similar to myself, where you smile a lot, so you I think you're a P.
Really? Yeah, I did have that, but I had it was a close one. Mine came out as T,
T,
but only
thinker.
three, yeah, but 3-2. So,
So close.
and I was actually thinking about the brain typing, and I think also maybe sometimes like because the questions, and this is what you guys were probably getting into, like, you know, it's not scientifically validated. It's just sometimes those questions, there were times where like, okay, in this context, I could be, you know, the first statement, but in another context, I could see myself being this other thing, you know, and but it sometimes it was a little bit difficult to.
Yeah,
it was actually great because you sort of like, yeah, you actually have to look inside and go, you know, what am I like? What do I, you know, what are my values here? You know, so it was a great experience doing that.
And then the young man, 18 years old. I mean, you're 38. Haroon, I have him down as an E.
Yeah. No, he loves being around people.
No, he's just. In fact, you guys going for a run every morning. There was 2 other teenagers here, and going back to my days in Catholic school, I was taught guilt and manipulation. I said, Haroon, I mean, he's 1 year older than the two of you, and he's outworking you. He's up in the morning. He's going for a run. He's exercising. He's doing the technical routines that we teach people to do. Just a few minutes here in the morning, a few minutes in the evening. I want to say one thing about teaching tennis. I remember way back when. I'm the youngest of 6, so I have 3 older brothers. I didn't have a brother to take over mowing the lawn, so I just kept mowing the lawn forever. You know, the oldest brother gives it to the second oldest brother, and plus my brothers went on to do different things to, I guess, earn a little more pocket money. So I mowed quite a few lawns in my day, and I used to say that teaching tennis is like using a lawnmower. And it's hot, it's sweaty, and it's a lot of noise. And if you know what you're doing, the lawnmower, it has a blade, and there's a sense of accomplishment at the end because, you know, the lawn looks better. You mowed the lawn. The even smells better. The grass is cut, or it's the smell of fresh cut grass. But the analogy, yeah, you're out there pushing a lawnmower, but it's got no blade. You're over and over again, and so you're teaching at tennis. And I can remember, you know, the curiosity. Hey, there has to be more to this than this. The tiebreaker test that we have, and we've in the past have done that for a week at a time, where when we were training coaches in a formal setting to get a college degree. So we take 1 5-day block of time, and we do the tiebreaker. Everything from how Jim Lair would have people wait in line. You know, the Peter Burwash, the quadrants, the Jim Verdict, the keeping score. And that's how the tiebreaker test grew, just taking ideas from different people. But the very first job I had, I'd been in tennis for 3 years, but I took a summer job, All American Sports, and I just pump out balls. Where it's a forehand cross court, it's a backhand cross court, it's a approach shot down the line. And all the coaches had basketballs, and all the coaches were yelling. Yeah, we're all inexperienced, all yelling out the same thing. And I used to feel like that we all sounded like an auctioneer or somebody who's the broadcaster for if you've ever listened to a horse race at the Kentucky Derby, and the horses are off, and it's just like there was just no information. But with I mean, go ahead.
No, I was just like Haroon, like sort of you guys mentioned. I was so pleasantly like surprised, like at 18, what like a hard worker he was, like, and how he really immersed himself into it. Because, you know, as I said, or prior to this, as we were talking, like you guys know players better than say sometimes the coaches, because I would only spend 1 hour a week. And I actually didn't even know he's extroverted until we came to the house, and I realized how, you know, comfortable he's around people and communicating with people. He would just be silent in my lessons, you know. So I thought, you know, he's a quiet boy, but it's understandable. He's getting taught, so he's not going to talk much. But yeah, like just seeing him sort of get into the shadow swinging every morning and every evening. And just today when we were coaching, he came down for the last hour, and I had a girl shadow swinging at like a shadow swinging station, and she's doing it with like the biggest frown on her face, like just hating it. He was really not liking it. And Haroon just arrived and just took the opportunity to go, actually, this is a good opportunity. Let's just talk about Haroon here, how he's just gone and like this girl's shadow swinging for 5 minutes, and here's Haroon who's doing it like happily every morning for, like at least 20, 30. Sometimes he was there even longer, and just made the point to the girl, like it's you can do it with a frown on your face, but then it's not going to be very productive. Or you can do it the way this guy was doing it for 6 days running, and it's going to be a lot productive. And that's the other thing, the satisfaction, like what you guys were just talking about. When you have those lessons where it's just I sense it. I even do them these days where we just haven't gone into the meat and bones of the information, so there's no way we can improve your game. And then here's Haroon. We had a session last Friday, and honestly, like the satisfaction I got, like I was feeding him balls, and granted they were courtesy balls, but he just wasn't missing. Like he'd do a whole basket and he just wasn't missing, and it's just the product of his hard work. And satisfaction you get as a coach is incredible, as opposed to that other lesson where you go, this person doesn't know the info, hasn't exposed themselves to the info, hasn't, prepared, and, and we're just going roundabouts here, I'm just doing this lesson, I'm wasting time, and it can be tough. That's the lawnmower without the blade.
Actually growing up as a hockey player, hockey players have a tendency to play golf in the summertime, and I never really played golf. I was at round golf. Remember caddying as a part-time job. But the golfer's mentality, just the other day, we have a high school team come in on Sundays, and one of the boys, he plays golf and tennis. And just to talk to him about how he practices golf. And, we made a video for him, and tennis players don't really think of going to the driving range, and static balance and just practice with this club and that club, and see if you can hit the ball straight. Can you hit the target? Golfers don't want to hit the ball in the water; they don't want to hit the ball in the woods. But the scoring system in golf too, really, golfers, I've heard it said that they'll run through fire to lower their score. What's your handicap? Similar to what's your UTR. And I said, no, I told the young man, I said, you need to go about tennis. He's at a point where he could play one or the golf or tennis in college. We would say right now at a lower level, small college. But he's got to make his mind up, if that's what he wanted to do. But the mentality from the golf world, I know Ivan, when you mentioned something about the first time I had you watch the Golf Channel.
Yeah, it's a different world, golf. They're really into strokes. They're into grips. They're into swings. They're playing nobody but the field. They're playing themselves because they've swung that golf swing that and hit the ball the same way for so many different times, and they just. They're into the technicality. We were watching, I think it was a championship, I don't even know the terminology, game match for the women's tour. And it was just mesmerizing. I'm like, these girls are women. These women are like putting like the small ball on a dime. Like, okay, I'm gonna put it here, boom, put it there. And you just see the skill. I know nothing about golf, zero. And you can just see the skill. It's kind of like watching a good swimmer from a bad swimmer. You can just tell, okay, this guy swims and this guy does not. And you see just the skill.
Yeah, I remember how that happened. Is Ivan heard me talk to somebody about golf, and he asked me, "You know something about golf?" I said, "Not really," but I said I grew up with golfers, and with I think a Miran man. coach up in Canada, and he's a great guy, smart guy. He's not a hockey fan, and he's loves sports, but he if you're living in Canada, I mean, you cannot not know hockey. I mean, so if you're living in a household where he plays golf, you cannot not go know golf to a certain point. And I said, I watched this, and I remember it was one of the top 10 players in the world. She's, being taught really basically grip, swing, body, which that goes out the window with tennis players. They don't. I'd say most tennis players don't think there's a connection to the fundamental base after they've been in the game for a short period of time.
Yeah, tennis has a real problem with that, I think. But it's funny you say that, because it was just yesterday. So I'm doing some cover work at my tennis club for the winter, and I've got this adult group, and every week I get 8 players on 2 courts, and it's an advanced group, so they got loads of issues on their swings, but they kind of play well, and they hit the ball all right, and they have fun, and it's great. And I'm also very aware that they have a lot of like hitting sessions, and so I try to sort of keep it quite light and just keep the just the activity going. But seeing loads of mistakes on their swing, so really struggling with that, where I can see all these mistakes and understand that I can't really, I'm not in the right sort of environment to be changing it. I'd love to change it, but I'm not. But occasionally I do some technical stuff, and there's this one guy that really seems to get into it. Whenever we do technical stuff, we'll really slow it down, and we might do some throw, hit, and catch in the boxes, or we might do some drop hitting. And I spoke to him actually spoke to him like 2 weeks ago, when I got back from the trip, and I was telling a group of them about the trip, and saying how impressed I was, and how it doesn't matter what level you are, you're going to be hitting off the cone, you're going to be really technical about things, you're going to be drop hitting, you're going to be hitting in the boxes and all that stuff. And there's a under 16 Canadian top 10 player, I think, like doing all this stuff, and he was like really impressed by it. He's like, oh, you should do that with us. And then just yesterday I found out that he's also a golfer. He plays golf. So he's like really into technique. And it's like you said, it's almost like they have a different mentality, a different approach to sport, that they're much more, I guess, open to the technical side.
Tell us what you mean by cover work.
So basically, this park that I teach at, where I'm based, Brockwell Park, it doesn't have floodlights. So in the winter, we don't have sunlight past 4 o'clock. So in the summer, I work till 9 o'clock there. I do juniors and adult sessions, but then from about October till about March, I finish at 4 o'clock at Brockwell. So it just happened at my tennis club where I play. So I don't coach there, but I play there. One of the coaches left in October, and so the head coach there knew that I coach. So he asked if I could cover, and I said his hours basically, and I said I could until March, because in April I'll go back to my base and do some evening stuff there. So yes, I'm just doing their group sessions, their kids sessions, and their adult sessions on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So it's just temporary, basically.
I'll tell you a quick story. I hear from coaches all the time, and it's fun. So, coach that we train, and he's really just starting out. And at the club in the north, the United States, you think of the southern half, the Sun Belt. So he's up in the north, where typically there's more court time in the summertime, because there's a combination of indoor courts and outdoor courts. So there's a player it's an adult player. Adult player is a beginner, and no one wants to teach the beginning woman how to play. And so he's the last man on the totem pole, and he's assigned to coach this beginner that the other coach is like, no, you why don't you give the lesson? So he gives a lesson, and it's so funny that she owns a club in Florida. So he has plenty of work. He's in Florida for the winter teaching tennis. So I thought that was a funny story. Let's go through certifications. I mentioned dedication. You've been through the Professional Tennis Registry, the Lawn Tennis Association,
Yep.
and what's the Spanish system? The RPT. Give us your. I know you can roll out your R's. How's it go?
Es Registro Profesional de Tenis.
Cool.
Why do you say that? Why don't you say that one more time?
I just emphasize the role of the R's. Spanish people are probably going, what's he doing? He's exaggerating those R's.
Give it to us one more time.
Registro Profesional de Tenis.
Yeah, there you go. That sounds like the real deal. Tell us about your experience with those organizations.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, I feel bad saying this, but it's the truth. I feel like the LTA has probably been the least. I feel like least I got, I guess, from them information wise. It's very. I think we spoke about it. It's very game based, which I think has its place, but it's so game based that it's like, what are we doing here? We're just allowing everything to happen here, and there's not going to be learning happening if you just throw them into the deep end of the pool. It's just people will be sinking. So I think that's my criticism of the LTA. And then the PTR was actually the first one that I did at a high level. So I did the LTA level 1 and level 2, which are like the assistant courses, like to become an assistant. But then I did the PTR next. That one, what I liked about that one is they covered some basic stuff that feels important. And I think the LTA is doing this now, but when I did it, they weren't really doing it. But looking into how you feed groups, and how you keep it moving, how you keep it dynamic. So basically running drills, which I found really helpful. And then I remember they had this module, which I found really helpful as well, which as a starting point, I thought it was great. Was error correction. So noticing errors and then, how you would correct them, and ideas and how you would correct them. And I thought that was really beneficial for a starting coach like me. And then RPT, the Spanish system, like sort of very footwork and much more technical again, a little bit more, definitely more technical than the LTA and a bit more technical than the PTR. They had like progressions. They would have a lot of sort of showing you how you progress teaching the stroke. And I thought, that was also super helpful. And actually the company that I worked for, they incorporated their progressions for a long time. So it was kind of useful. It meant I was learning it, and then I was applying it. And that was the one thing that was one big criticism for the LTA. And I think even to this day, speaking to coaches, they find the same thing, is that you go and do their courses and it's nothing to do with real life. A lot of times what they're doing is showing you when two players can already play. And when I've gone to these courses as well, sometimes you can hear the questions in the coaches are just desperately asking me, but my players can't do this. My players can't do this. And, and they're like, yeah, well, they're never going to get there if you don't do this. You have to do this. And, so I think, that would be, I guess that's my experience with the three.
One thing with game-based, for our listeners, it used to be form-based. And I really think that static balance is almost extinct. Where, I think of Welby Van Horn, his player is going to be at the service line. He's going to be standing right next to the player. And initially, they're not even going to hit a tennis ball. It's just going to be body balance. And then he goes through the grip, then he goes through the checkpoints. There's no ball involved. And, Welby wasn't really big on emphasizing using the legs, the knee lift. He wasn't big on hitting topspin. When you're first teaching a beginner, is you wanted to teach body control, you want to teach the grips and the shape of the swings. And, so many Welby pearls. If you hit the ball well, you end up on balance. We know in the high levels of play, the sport becomes very dynamic. But game-based, now what we say is you should combine game-based and form-based and call it principle-based. And you can make form a game. You can have relay races where, the young player has to, for example, the person on his team has to drop hit the ball, but they hold their balance, and then their partner has to tap their back foot. And, then the coach could say, go, and then you teach them how to run properly, and they run across, and they pick one ball up, and you make it a relay race, but there's form involved. We can have form tournaments. We do that at the beginning of tennis camps. Film everybody in the beginning, go through body balance, go through grips, go through the shape of the swing. At the end of the very first day, you have a form tournament. And, young kids, you have prizes, and it works. That comes from Dennis Vandermeer. It just works like a charm. Game-based is a moneymaker. Kids like it. It would be like a basketball coach going, yeah, okay, we'll just scrimmage. We're not going to teach you any fundamentals. We'll just scrimmage. Can we play, coach? Can we play, coach? And in all fairness to, say, soccer, actually football, when we're talking to Luis. I know we talked about that when you were here. The comedian became a talk show host, James Gordon, Englishman.
Gordon, yeah.
His big claim, to get off on a tangent, was he wanted his time in America, they needed to change the name of football. American football is not football, and soccer is football. And I thought the word the Americans would definitely take, just call it best ball. It's just, instead of calling it football, we'll just call it best ball. Like, oh yeah, we'll take that. We'll take that. But game-based, what happens, in fact, somebody that we trained was recently at the PTR symposium, and that's really where the GreatBase should be. We need to raise funds, and we should have a booth at the symposium for the professional tennis registry in this country, and then, say, for example, the USTA, the United States Professional Tennis Association, the USTA, they have 17 sections. We should have booths and representatives saying, here's this content, it's free. And use my name in third person. It is not Steve Smith stuff. I mean, just in that one course, Tennis Intelligence Supply, we mentioned over 100 coaches. But Dennis Vandermeer, he's the founder of the PTR, 1977. USPTA started in 1927. This is on previous podcasts. The USPTA initially was just a players organization, and there was no test. It was just players, and it was just assumed, well, all players can teach. And there was dues, and it became an organization. And then Dennis Vandermeer came along in 1977, and he started He started the PTR, and there was a test. The PTR had a test before the USPTA. So shortly after, with Dennis Vandermeer, the slogan of the USPTA was "Best by Test." And Dennis, those buggers, they used to never even have a test. But I would recommend all young people here in the U.S. for sure to be a member of both the PTR and the USPTA and be proactive. Because there's 15,000 members in the Mark Twain line, the American philosopher. You can learn from each and every one of them. But, people get busy. I know you have children, and, that's one thing. And then if you're coaching tournament players, that's another thing. I mean, everybody, I think, suffers from time poverty. But with... I've met many coaches, people over the years, 50 years, that have been associated with the LTA. But the Spanish program, I went through that here with Sanchez Casal in Naples, Florida. Then I went through that twice, and then once with the USPTA. So I tell people I've been through it 2.5 times. I tell young coaches, even if you go to a lecture and it's just one or two, as we say, golden nuggets, is well worth it.
100%. I think, I would even do them now as well. If sometimes the price is also a bit, but because, doing it as a young coach, where I have no clue about the basically the process of coaching. It's one thing doing it then, and then I feel like even now, like I would just like to experience it. I wouldn't mind doing even the LTA, like just because you come with it with a different understanding. Even if you just end up criticizing it a little bit more because you know you have better understanding of the game, it's still kind of useful. It still helps you to understand, you know, exactly why you do things the way you do, even if you don't agree with it. And like you said, you can always get little things out of it, these little nuggets out of anything.
Yeah, you definitely have to be open to learning. The program we ran for a decade, where you could get a college degree, you know, came up with the nickname Tennis Tech. I didn't ask anybody for permission. It's like, well, how's it go? I'll ask for forgiveness. So we called it Tennis Tech, and you know, I remember just telling my former students, you know, don't be a tennis tech monster. You know, they would meet someone who, you know, maybe they didn't know, you know, the roll of the elbow on the serve. And then it was just like, well, they don't know anything. With our peer teaching, you know, we can have a 10-year-old who can actually go out and do a better job introducing the game to a fellow 10-year-old, or even someone, you know, 12, 13 years old, which is magical to have a young kid teaching an older kid. But that doesn't mean they know, you know, so many other facets of tennis. I think, yeah, that thing about being open-minded, you can learn from everyone. Doug Tomlin, somebody I trained to teach tennis, he has a great line. He said, well, that's a great coach from the knee down. And, you know, I break tennis down in 3 parts. You know, you have from your hips down, you know, how good are you with your lower body? Because it is a lower body sport. It's an upper body sport. When people come to see us, we get typecast because we film them and we have to deal with their upper body. I mean, they basically have inefficient grips and inefficient swings. But then it's from Roger Crawford, who's a guest on our podcast, who played Division I tennis, just disabled in all 4 limbs. A line from Crawford is, you know, that player needs a checkup from the neck up. So how good are you from the neck up? How good are you from the neck to your hips? And then how good are you from your hips down? And we get typecast that, you know, that we don't do that much with the lower body, or people watch we do and go, there's no racket hit speed. Well, we just filmed the kid. He's 10 years old. It doesn't matter if he's 15 years old. But we have to slow down and regroup because we have people fill out a goal sheet and they write down, you know, amazing things. Like, I want to be the best player in the world. I like it when they write down, I want to be the best I can be. You know, I want to, I think Haroon, to always be passionate, always have love for the game. I mean, those are great goals. It goes the other way. I mean, we go, Noah Rubin, American player. I'm not sure there's a coach in New York City, that area. I remember reading that what he would tell kids is your goal should be to have no goals. I mean, people get so hung up on their goals. Just get better. Just get better.
Journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, we spoke about the coaching, but honestly, like, I just had the most amazing doubles match on Sunday. I played for the mixed team, and we actually ended up winning. It was a straight shootout in a way, for the first place in the division, and then the winner of one division plays the winner of like Division B. So it's Division A, Division B, and the 2 winners play each other in the final, and we just got to the final. And honestly, I don't think I've served as well as I've never served as well as I did on Sunday, and it's no coincidence. It's like I've gone to you guys, and I actually played a mixed game about a month prior to going to you guys, so like the start of December, and you know, it was average. I wasn't very good. I got a little bit negative, thinking a bit negatively, you know, like, oh, you know, we should be beating these guys, or at least we should be closer to these guys. We ended up winning overall because the other team won both their matches, whereas we lost one, we won one. And then it was completely different. One thing I got really from the visit was the enjoyment. It was like, kind of like, yeah, it's competitive, but, you know, there are so many more serious things happening in the world. So this, I guess, it's a Vic Braden thing, right? It's like, was it Laugh and Win?
Laugh and Win,
yeah, just enjoy. And so, like, I think for the first time, I went into a match going, you know what, just be grateful. You've got time to compete. You can enjoy yourself. This is what you love doing. So, win or lose. And I just tried to remember that every single pressure point. It's like, is this really a pressure point, or is this you having fun? And so that was one thing. The attitude and the outlook during the competition was completely different. And the second thing was my serve. It was unbelievable how I was managing to get a lot more first serves in, but it was my second serve. Like, the confidence to actually kind of accelerate from my second serve was just insane. Like, and it's all down to the visit. But then also, since I've come back from the visit, I'm pretty sure I haven't been doing as many shadow swings as Haroon, because that guy's on it every day. But, any little moment I've been sort of trying to shadow swing. And then, one thing that stuck with me is when you said teaching pro-itis, like slowing, when you slow down, doing it the wrong way. So I'm like, when I'm serving to the kids, serving to my my lesson, I'll still try to do it properly, and possibly miss a few serves, but trying to do it properly. Twice I've managed to go and do sock throwing and baskets, and just doing it from the service line and doing it slowly, but trying to do it properly. And yeah, it's no coincidence. I go Sunday and it's just the best serving performance I've ever had. I'm not saying it's the finished article. I'm pretty sure I'm still doing many things wrong, but it's a lot better. So that's another thing. This system works too.
Yeah. The proof's in the pudding. That's what Braden used to say.
Yeah.
The umpire says ready, play. With I'd like to come back to Spanish tennis and even ask you about county tennis, but Yvonne, you can throw a question out here. Let me just say this about Graydon Oliver. Dave Anderson and I were very fortunate to work with Graydon Oliver. Dave Anderson called him Hollywood. His hair was going to be in place. I mean, he really, you could just tell that he wanted to have good looking strokes. And then later, he had a growth spurt. He ended up playing all these connections. He played for one of our students, Craig Tiley at Illinois. And for a very short period of time, he got into the coaching business, and it was fun. He was calling me up all the time, but just very short lived. And then I believe it was the oil industry, but he broke it down and he said, it takes this, and everybody should know this. We have the 42-second drill for 7 strokes, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, approximately 6 seconds per stroke. And if they have a 2-handed backhand volley and a 1-handed backhand volley as a young player, it was a 48-second drill. And we tell people, even when your mom or dad, they're at the gas station, just be careful of moving cars, but get out of the van and do the 48-second drill. You're traveling, and you can do we call it a driveway workout, but people will drive to visit us. Most of the time our students fly, but now that we're in Virginia, we're pretty close to the southeast and the northeast, and people get in the car and drive here. It's like, well, when you stop for gas, take a few minutes and shadow swing. But Graydon Oliver, he put a number to it based on how long it took to shadow swing 1 stroke. It's 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3. You just, okay, I'll do the math and have people do a large number of them. But the brain has to be switched on. Like, say, Haroon, who's here, it's true that the brain will produce a greater amount of myelin if it's, Jim Lair, one of his 17 books, total engagement, that they're into it. They're not just dreading it and going through the motions. Now, here in our country, baseball used to be the number 1 sport. Is so many things about baseball, but they have the on-deck circle. Before it's your turn to bat, you stand in the on-deck circle and you practice your swing. And then for 15 years, I worked right next to where the New York Yankees play spring baseball. They have a huge stadium, beautiful stadium in Tampa. It was right next to where we worked. And these, world-class baseball players, the New York Yankees, they got a ball on a tee, and they have what they call a swing coach. You tell a young kid, okay, we're going to hit off the cone. It's amazing how many times we hear that. Yeah, they made me hit off a cone because it is, it's indignant. They're belittling me. Go ahead, Ivan.
When I was in high school, I took an A. I mean, I didn't make that many smart decisions in high school, and I can blame a lot of people, but it's ultimately my fault. But one of the poor decisions I made, I did take too many AP classes. AP for you, Luis, and people not in America is advanced placement, and it's a way to get college credits in high school. And I took, I think, like 11 AP classes. And my junior year, I was going to take another one that I ended up just dropping, and it was AP biology. And there was a joke going around along with the AP biology students and just the regular biology class where, let's say you're studying for a test and you didn't study for it, you can actually go to sleep, just put the book under your pillow, and through osmosis, the information would just go into your brain, and you'd know it by the morning time. And I always thought that was quite funny. So why I say that is just being around Steve here and the coaches that have come through and the players and the information for the last year or so, I've just kind of absorbed all this tennis information, and not just the information, but how to coach really. And going into my job here and helping out Steve and the GreatBase, it wasn't really I wasn't looking to, okay, I want to become a better coach, but like I started off by saying that through osmosis, I've just become better at coaching because I was at zero, and then I've just been around it so much now that I'm confident. Like Steve can throw me a couple kids and 3, 4, 5, 6, and just being around, it's like, yeah, okay, I can help them out here and here and here. And why I say that is I want to throw a question back onto you, Luis, is after being here, what are some things that are like, we've gone over it a little bit, but maybe some concrete examples, not to put you on the spot, but maybe some concrete examples that it's like, oh, this is some, and we didn't get into very many group dynamics. We didn't have too many people here, but let's say some drills or some ways to handle situations differently. Because like I said beforehand, I did some coaching, very little before I started working here, and it'd be one-on-one, really. It'd be privates, and I just go off the information I found online. It's like, okay, here's the grip, swing, body, but never really put it all together. And now it's just I feel like a lot easier and a lot more confident. Do you have a similar sort of experience? And how have you how's your trip really benefited you on the court, like with your players?
I mean, there's loads of examples. I mean, if I could just remember them all, my memory, that's the challenge. But like, I mean, just talking about the 42-second drill, that's actually the one drill that I've really committed to since coming back, that I'm going to make sure that really, I should do it with adults too, but like adults are a little bit of a different sort of animal to deal with at the moment for me. They've got other things going on, but juniors is something. Every single junior that I've seen since I've come back, I'm making sure that we're going to go over the 42-second drill at the start of the lesson, because something that really stuck with me is, I think Steve's saying 10 minutes at the start, technique, 10 minutes at the end, technique. And I try to do even more than that, because with the drop hitting and hitting, I don't know, drop feeding and all that stuff, you can do more. But the 42-second drill, we do that at the start and we do that at the end, and we just got to keep doing it, because I want them to learn it, and then the reason I want them to do it is because I want them then to start doing it at home. So that's a big one that I've committed to. Today was also like a really proud moment. So about 4 months ago, I started with a beginner, and he just came to me for lesson. He's just doing weekly lessons, and I'd say he's my first beginner, I think, that I've consistently worked with for the last 4 months. So once a week, he hardly misses a week. He comes every week, and I'd say that probably for that 4 months, I've been much more, I guess, confident with the information, the GreatBase. So I basically, in my mind, he's a product of the GreatBase. And today, actually, Haroon, I had a lesson with him at the end after the camp, and Haroon was still kind of getting his stuff together. And I was just like, just have a look, Haroon, like, what does this, this guy's called Harry. What does Harry remind you? But, And Haroon's like, yeah, you've taught him the great base. I'm like, yeah, exactly. And this guy's just not missing balls. He's just like, low to high. There's, not a lot of spin, but low to high in everything, balanced, and, just lovely looking strokes. Forehand, backhand volley, backhand volley. Yeah. So there's loads, and not just from when I've come back, but since I've got into the information, I think the cone thing has been the cone hitting has been extremely helpful with juniors, because I think I've realized since teaching the way you guys teach, or trying to teach the way you guys teach, how difficult the stroke actually is, how amazing we have to be in a way to actually be able to hit the ball correctly. And so I find the cone super useful to just slow kids down and, just to do it. And to be fair, I've actually I wouldn't say I've had a bad reaction to it. Maybe, I don't think I've done it once with kids, and any kid has not wanted to do it. Like, there's been it's almost like they've seen it as normal. So yes, I would say those are my experiences. I mean, there's loads more, but, and I would say one thing actually, and this is more like cry out for help, but the one thing that I'm really struggling with is the serve. I would say that's the one thing that I can't even probably properly explain, like, how I feel, but it almost feels like, like a mountain to climb up, like, to try and even tackle the serve. So pretty much I'd say most of my juniors, even the best servers, have like a quite clear version of palm up. And, and then some of the ones who I've just started teaching are like, just, like, not to say it in a brutal way, but it just feels like, how do I even tackle this? Like, this is like, I don't even know where to start with this. That's the one thing I'd say. Yeah. So there's a lot of positives and good stories, but I think that's the one challenging area is I'm struggling to sort of tackle the serve, because it feels like it requires even more patience.
Well, I think with the human element, it's logical, intelligent to have palm up. The player wants to get the ball.
Yeah.
The player wants to get the ball in the box, and to conceptualize. Say for a right-hander swinging left to right, they're going to swing away from their body. When you hit a tennis ball, you're blind to your target. A volley, a ground stroke, the alignment, you swing towards your target. The emergency shots, that's a different deal. I mean, when the ball's behind you and you use a continental grip, the tweener, the side tweener, the backfire, the forehand flick, the backhand flick. With, the serve, the human element, they want to get the ball in the box so bad. And to conceptualize swinging left to right. Peter Burwash used to teach the serve to beginners, where he'd have them serve backwards, which is really the backfire. And we do that when we play mini tennis 5. You have to serve, any of the two service boxes, but you square your shoulders. You're facing the fence, and you don't look to the court. You know where the court is, and you just, if you're right-handed, you toss the ball over your left shoulder, and you're really loose, and you use a continental grip. It's amazing how many players the coach will tell them to use a continental grip, and then they refinger the grip. That's where to take people out of the context of the court, to have people work up by the net first. There's so many different drills. The one that we named Vandermeer after Dennis, where ideally you have a player choke up on the racket and they have to be very, very loose. It's not how you serve, but you have the players, they bring the racket behind their back. I think that's where adult tennis versus junior tennis, if adult players play once a week, I know we're going to talk to you about that a little bit. People that play once a week, how do you do that? We have people come in for an immersion program, and we can work with them for 8 hours in one day. But yeah, it's people, they so badly want to get the ball in the box, they're going to revert back to having that palm up. And, that's where the ratio of practice to play, you really have to get people to practice off the court. They got to use a mirror, hang a string from the ceiling. And in this country, came out in the 70s, Eve Kraft, Alan Schwartz, the NTRP, goes as high as a 7. If you're living completely from tennis, you're a 7. If you're making some money in tennis, you're a 6.5. You know, like a really good college tennis player would be a 6.0. Working on the other end of it, the club coaches, you used to have to be rated, and then it turned over to self-rating. Back in the 70s, you had to go to a NTR clinic and become a rater, a verifier. And then what happened is the club pros, for the most part, somebody would be a 2.5, and the club pro could even tell them they were 3.5. So it really became inflated. And so then people, they say even adult tennis, they just, they want to be, in our country, they want to be in that 3.5 league, or they want to be in the B league versus the C league. And if they're going to play with a continental grip, it's like you should, and learn to serve palm down, it's like they should take a season off. But then there's just, it's the same thing in junior tennis. There's peer pressure. Somebody signed up to play doubles with someone, and then they've come to see a coach who's diagnostic, the flaw, the cause, the cure. They film and they tell the mom, for example, hey, your daughter's got a palm up serve. And it's like, well, she's scheduled to play next week, or in 3 weeks, she's scheduled to play in a doubles tournament with her friend. And I think really to get people to take time away from competition, because it's instruction destruction. People just revert back. You know, years ago, I mean, I just can't tell you how many times I gave a tennis lesson, and, you know, you're teaching a tennis lesson on court 4, and then you look over at court 6. So you gave a lesson at 9 o'clock. And then at 10 o'clock, the person you're teaching, they're playing. They had their lesson, they're playing. So you worked with them with palm down, and then they're out there playing a match, and it goes right out the window. I mean, kick your own sandcastle. With the AP, let me come back to AP classes. I've had a couple students in the past that those courses didn't exist. They certainly didn't exist when I was a kid, taking them for college credit. But I've had students take the course and not take the test for credit. You know, you have too many AP classes. You know, we've had students that wanted to win Wimbledon, at least be a U.S. senator, and be an astronaut. But I do think that it's too much. You know, I mean, I think if people were, I don't know if we've covered that in our college tennis podcast, but if people were to take a balance of AP classes, not take so many AP classes, because if you really want to get into school, you know, communicated with the MIT coach today, and with if maybe not at MIT, some schools, but like say straight across the board, the magic number with Harvard, the H-bomb, the big name school, the school that's mentioned in all the movies, that 1350 is a high, you know, that's the lowest score you can have. But if you have a really high tennis ranking and you're still a solid student, like the ACT would be a 31. But one thing I want to ask you about the Spanish system or tennis in Spain. Here in the U.S., there's so much self-promotion. And I think that some people have a warm-up. If they lost a warm-up, you could just, you know, put a stamp on it and mail it to them. You know, so much name recognition, and, you know, there's just so much advertising. But I've heard it be said that, you know, if someone's at a park and rec, if they're at a posh club or they're at a university, that it's all the same. The coaches more or less are on the same page, and there's not so much one-upmanship. What's it like in England? Is that, I mean, is it, you know, a lot of advertising, or one coach is advertising they're better than, not necessarily head-to-head better than the next coach, or do they teach people in their local area? What could you comment on that?
Sorry, what was the last bit? Did they teach
in the local area? In other words,
like
say, you know, certain parts of Europe, you know, a kid from Sweden, this is the club they go to. They don't bop and shop. I mean, I remember being at some clubs in Sweden where there were no such thing as a private lesson. You know, you weren't even thinking about going to another club. You just This is where you play. You represent your club. And
Mm.
that the coaches are, I think, more unified. That the coaches are not working against one another.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. From my own personal experience, I've not felt that coaches are working against each other here. Like, you sort of, I mean, from my end, like, I'm really lucky. Like, because I'm really lucky in one sense, because I don't do it. I don't like to do any marketing because I'm not good at it. I just have no clue about that stuff. I've done some courses on it and just, but I'm at a park where I just get so much traffic that people just see me coach, and I get all my lessons just from people seeing me coach and getting my number and getting in touch with me, and hopefully doing a good enough job. That's how I get most of my coaches. I think what you're talking about then, those more like sort of maybe at like the higher level of junior, and I mean, people do move around. I think once you sort of get to a certain level and you kind of think that you can get a better edge somewhere else, like, more of a, better edge from another coach. I've heard stories that sort of people move and try different things. But in general, I feel like they tend to stay in the programs that they come up on, and until they have that feeling that they've outgrown the program.
I do think for the consumer, there's obviously a reason that people will bop and shop. I mean, but I do think that a lot of times the tennis parent in junior tennis, or even an adult tennis player, they don't give the coach enough time. If you're not out there, okay, let's rally and anything goes. You're bumping balls back and forth, and but if you take your time and you teach well, it's like, okay, we have to take a little slower approach to this.
And also sometimes what you're looking for as well. I feel like, I just had an experience where, it's like a really talented 8-year-old kid started taking lessons with me, but I just went straight into the GreatBase info system. I even sent them the information because I was like, this will be, because I know that the dad makes their kids like a practice at home. So I'm in my head, I'm going, this is amazing. These guys are made for the GreatBase, So I start sharing info. I start doing it in lessons, but 2 months in, that's it. We stopped the lessons, and I just don't think I was delivering what they wanted, and I didn't quite understand also, like, whether it was a good thing, but like, I wanted to teach him everything that basically you guys were teaching me. And really, I think the dad just wanted me to like expose the kid. He's 8 years old, expose him to like some faster hits and, hits from the baseline. And, every time I was doing stuff in the service boxes, they would finish the lessons like, oh, could we do more from the baseline next time? Could you hit with him a little bit more? And I kind of like, we had loads of discussions with the dad, he's like, really? But isn't that, you play with him. So that's, his sister's a very good player. So she plays with him. He gets enough of that. Like, surely when you come to me, we can, give him something different from a different angle. But I think the kid just wanted to have fun. And so they ended up going somewhere else, I don't know if sometimes that happens. It's
I think people will go and find what they want to find. I tease and say, I've got fired by a lot of 12-year-olds. We tell people, don't judge the unfinished product.
I got fired by an 8-year-old.
Don't judge the unfinished product. Get fired by an 8-year-old. This story may be old hat, but it's recent. This young Jose Garcia is a nice tennis player. He's being recruited by this school and that school, and a coach who spent one day with us, he'd asked Octavio Garcia, said, who's your son's coach? And I'm flattered really that he says, I'm the coach, because I've known this family for 10 or more years. And there's, the father, the mom, they do a great job, the 2 older brothers. And so when he was asked, who coaches your son? He said, Steve Smith. And he said, no way. He goes, I've watched Steve Smith teach tennis. There's no way he taught your son. And then the gentleman, the father, said, well, how long did you watch him teach? He said, just one full day. I went to school for one day. And he goes, well, this is what it looks like 10 years later. You know,
Yeah,
we do get accused of, you know, mechanical, robot, old school. But that's where, you know, if you know, we should do a better job, you know, sharing what our track record is. That's another thing too, is that here in this country, there's just so much recruitment. You know, we call him the third base coach, the kid, I shouldn't say kid, I'm such an old guy, the pro out who's hustling the weekend tournament, and they see some kid who can play and they're out there passing out their business card. You know, we just call that a merchant of flesh. We need more first base coaches. But again, the parent of the 8-year-old needs to realize that, hey, your kid's on first base. But yeah, it's just like a ball machine, you know, turn it up. I want it to come faster. And of all sports, an 8-year-old really should be going out and playing other sports, becoming really athletic, learning to be on a team, you know, learning cooperative skills, and go really slow with technique. You know, the term get a grip for a lifetime. But I think that's one thing, and how you talk to people. But I think with that, we could talk a little bit about video. You know, I think if you document video, and then we did that when you were here from a training standpoint. You know, then the video goes home with the son and the dad, but you also have to have a skills test. You know, I mean, it's amazing. Kids that are so-called tournament players, they can be ranked high. You know, in the U.S. it would be in their section, the state, Canada, the province, maybe where you are, the county. And you're saying, okay, I'm going to feed a ball to you about 30 miles an hour. I'm feeding it to your forehand volley. Just hit it in the service box. They can't do it. They just can't do it. And it's like, that's where tennis really falls down, because when players start to hit with one another, you know, no one knows they're a lousy player if they're hitting with a lousy player. You know, well, I'm a little bit better than the, you know, lousy and lousier. I mean, crummy and crummier. We've gone through that. Tell us about county tennis. You know, I've been to some county matches. It's pretty organized, correct?
Yeah, like the sort of like club matches within the county.
Yeah, club matches.
Yeah, so yeah. I mean, that's my passion, really. I mean, I don't do it as much as I used to because of work. I work Saturday and Sunday, but I've pledged. I told my club that this year I'm going to commit to at least 4 or 5 of them in the summer. But yeah, I actually absolutely love them. Like I started them when I was young. I think I got into the men's team around sort of 16, 17, and I just love the feeling of sort of going together as a team, driving to another location, you know, in Kent. So I've always been part of Kent. Lovely drives out to Kent, Garden of England, and going to some lovely places and playing tennis matches. People complain that it takes all day, but that's what I think makes it a day for me. I kind of like it. I like the journey there. I like the match. Then we have tea, which most people will laugh at, and then the drive back home. You know, it can be miserable if you lose, but you know, I think it's a great experience, and it's well organized. Like they're really into it. I actually captain the men's team at my club, and yeah, it's really well run. We have like a summer season and a winter season, and you play sort of 5 fixtures. Per team plays 5 fixtures, and you're in a division, and yeah, home and away. It's super well organized. Yeah, and it's all doubles. So we have one actually in the summer. We have one that's singles and doubles, but the main one is always is 2 doubles. So you have 4 players.
And what about junior? What about juniors?
Same thing. Yeah, they do the same thing. It's for some weird reason, it's not as well organized, but it is done. And usually the juniors, they kind of get fast tracked into the men's teams, which I think is kind of a good thing. Like, so for example, I was with the club that we played. Our guy was talking to the captain, and he remembered that in the men's match they brought a 14-year-old kid to the fixture. You know, so I think that's what, you know, once you're kind of good enough, you get fast tracked into the men's teams or the ladies team if you're, you know, girl. But yeah, the juniors do it as well. But the juniors, in fact, all the juniors are singles and doubles. So that's the difference. So you'll have 4 in a team, and they play 4 singles and then 2 doubles.
Let me ask you a
But
question.
but that's the thing that I think that's the other thing that I think most parents prefer. This is another thing that you probably, have a lot to say on, but like, I think parents seem to prefer the weekend tournaments, rather than these team events. And I think maybe that's why it's a little bit, I don't know, it doesn't feel like as popular as, say, the adult competition county teams.
Well, I do think it's too bad that year round, 12 months out of the year, most places, people are trying to play tournament tennis and worried about their ranking and such. But what an opportunity for say a 16-year-old to be on a men's team. I know my son Connor, he played, he played on a men's team in Germany when he's about that age. And
he said, I love the way like juniors have got adults in a way can learn a lot from good juniors, but then juniors have so much to learn from adults. So, for example, the guy I was telling you about, that I had a lesson with after the camp, really good technique. But at the end of the day, he's only played 4 months. And I had a girl that I was actually going to give a lift back home to that did the camp. And so I got her to be kind of my hitter. And then they played points at the end. And, she's so much better than him in a way. Like, she's making him run all over the place. But just the emotional intelligence and I guess the calmness of this guy compared to the girl was just off the radar. Like, she's panicking every time and getting upset every time she misses a shot. And here's a guy getting run ragged by a 12-year-old and just staying completely calm, not reacting. And on the way back home, I'm just trying to get that point across to her, like, you see the difference in emotion. Like, you're more in control of the match, really, but it didn't look like it. It looked like he was a lot more in control of the match because he's in control of his emotions. So I think juniors being exposed to that and playing in a team with adults that can kind of anchor them emotionally, and they if they're smart juniors, and they can learn from that. I think it's really helpful for them. Yeah.
Luis, let me ask you this question. Let me say a couple of things before I ask the question. The Super Bowl just finished in this country. Amazing final, went to overtime. Number 87, number 15 on the championship team, Kelsey, who also has a brother who just retired, both hockey players. And, you put a kid on a pair of skates and every impulse they could wipe out. I mean, it's a way to challenge someone to be athletic. And then there's the number 15, Mahomes, the quarterback. Father was a professional baseball player. He actually is from East Texas, where I lived for 10 years. His wife was a really good athlete. She played college soccer at Tyler, Texas. So I've followed that story. And Mahomes, he says that he plays football like he's a shortstop. And you can really see it, that he's so both of these gentlemen, superstars, Super Bowl champions, multiple sport athletes. My question is, can every British boy play soccer? Can every British girl play soccer? And then if you talk about, when you were here, you talked about another passion of yours besides county tennis is Sunday football. Why don't you just comment on soccer? Can all kids play?
I think my passion for football, though, comes from my Latin American roots. I mean, even in Slovakia, because I grew up in basically like a student estate, and they were all pretty much foreigners where we lived. Like, there were no Slovakian people, and I would spend my weekends playing football with the Latin American guys there. We're just like it's a religion in Latin America, football. So I will criticize British football a bit. Like, yes, they're very good at it. They invented the game, they say, as well, the rules at least. They've got it well organized, but I feel like they don't quite live it. So not every kid. It's not like when I go to Peru. I mean, but when I go, and I visited Brazil as well. I mean, it was mental when I went to Brazil. Like, that sport is absolute religion, and everyone is good at it there. Like, I didn't meet one Brazilian person that couldn't do kick ups, and And here you can, there's other sports competing in schools, and they've got their rugby, they've got their cricket, so you can get a few boys and girls that sort of a little bit uncoordinated with their feet, but they do love it. And the Sunday League football, it's kind of famous for that sort of team atmosphere, quite sort of. I feel like it'll be close to your hockey, I guess, in a way. There's a lot of banter, a lot of competition, a lot of sort of unsaid things happening during Sunday League football. You hear some atrocious things and Sunday League football stories about Sunday League football, tackles, bad pitches. But the level of competition is very good. And there's actually a famous player here, Ian Wright. I don't know if you guys know him, played for Arsenal. And there's a few actually. There's Bardi as well. So, Premier League winning players. Premier League is the top division here in football. So, the top of the game, the best teams in England. And, these guys came from Sunday League football. So they were actually found, late teenage years, 1920. Scouts saw them playing Sunday League football. They tried out for professional teams and they made it. So there's stories like that as well. So it's like this grassroots football, but really tough, but at the same time can be like really high level. And I think a lot of people grow in Sunday League football.
I know
it's a great experience.
I know the Aussies would take issue with this because they claim to still be the greatest tennis nation based on just what was done in the 50s and 60s with all their great players. Coming back to the tennis podcast, I think that you're too humble to, submit a proposal and say, let me train you, the 3 speakers, on tennis math. That would be interesting because they do. They go on about how they love, I love this person's game. I love their service motion. And I think it's more the beauty of tennis, but with, with coaching that young 8-year-old, if hypothetically he went to soccer, as we say, he went to your football, he goes to a football pitch and they start working with fundamentals. I mean, do you think that typically the parent of a soccer player, they got a young kid playing soccer in England versus playing tennis, that they would be more open to the soccer coach doing, foot drills, technical drills than they would be in tennis? In other words, say the fortnight, coming back to the Aussies, the British overall, I think, I would say, okay, overall, really an educated nation about the game of tennis because of Wimbledon. That doesn't mean they know grip, swing, body. They don't know the technical side, but they know tennis way, way better than here in the U.S. But how would that, how do you think hypothetically that would go for that 8-year-old's father if he took him to a soccer coach and they're working on skills?
A really good question, but it's a tough one at the same time because, I think one of the issues might be that if you're an 8-year-old and you impress so much, so I've seen this, I've taught this kid, and people stop to watch and start going, oh my God, how amazing he plays like this. He's quite little as well, so it is quite impressive seeing such a little kid, hitting the ball from the baseline. And I feel like it doesn't help when you're constantly being told how amazing you are. And then I'm being a bit pessimistic here maybe, but I almost feel like it'll be the same response if you're being told on a football pitch how amazing you are. Then you might also start to think, I don't need to work on my first touch. I know this already. I don't need to work on my passing, my side foot passing. And I think that's, I think that's the problem. But what I would probably say is I think the culture in football, I think, will quickly knock that out of him. I don't think in tennis, I don't know why, but it doesn't, there's just, you might not be the only good one in the team. You know what I mean? So if you've got 4 or 5 good ones in the team, and two of them are doing the right basics, then it kind of forces the other two to do it. Also, I think there is more of a, I don't want to swear, but there's no, there's in football, I think they take less, they take less from people, from parents. It's really just get down to work and do it. And I don't think in tennis that we have that culture. There is a lot more like, we're paying for this service, we expect to get what we want.
I guess
Whereas football, you get cut from a team as well. I think it's very easy for coaches to just get rid of players. Like, you're not fitting in, you're not doing, you don't have to be here. You can go. So
yeah,
I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it's here in the U.S. I always say, okay, a kid from Central Europe for sure, Northern Europe, they can ski, skate, play soccer, and now we have kids that they're just playing one sport. Let me ask you along the lines of your answer. The great Alex Ferguson, was he politically correct? Was he worried?
No.
Was he worried about how he was talking to his athletes?
Oh my days, no way. He's got the famous hairdryer treatment, which, I mean, it's incredible. You hear, you guys know David Beckham, right?
Yeah.
David, you got people David Beckham.
I don't know. I'm bald. I don't really know the hairdryer treatment. What's that?
So basically, there's loads of stories from these famous footballers, David Beckham. I mean, you're talking about superstars, and I don't know if you guys know Roy Keane as well. Roy Keane's like the scariest man in football, like brilliant captain for Man United under Sir Alex Ferguson. Hard guy, like really tough guy, and these characters are talking about being absolutely petrified about the hairdryer treatment. It's basically when you've done something on the pitch that you're not supposed to have done, you get back into the changing room, and Sir Alex Ferguson comes in and pretty much not holding anything back, starts telling you where he thinks you've gone wrong, and it's apparently so intense that it's like having a hairdryer on your face. So that's the hairdryer treatment. So yeah, there's no way Sir Alex Ferguson was ever worried about what he was telling his players. He told it pretty much straight. And the other thing is that it's just what I was talking about. Like, again, incredible. Like David Beckham, Roy Keane. When I was growing up, these players, they were like, you felt like they were Man United. Like, they couldn't leave Man United. They were the key players and stars for the team. They had to stay. The moment they did something they weren't supposed to do. So Roy Keane left because he criticized the players after a match on Man United TV, live on TV. And Sir Alex Ferguson just thought that he overstepped the mark, and he said, "We do this kind of stuff in-house. You don't do it publicly." And he was and Roy Keane disagreed, and that's it. He was out the door. And this is his captain. He's European Cup winning captain. He did something he wasn't supposed to do, and I guess he didn't want to go back on it, and that's it. And so Ferguson was never one to be scared of get rid of star players, and I think that's that says a lot about the culture in football as well.
That reminds me, when you're here, and I certainly am confident with my memory, but I think I'm going to have to guess on this one that you had not really seen Ted Lasso, the TV show.
No.
Yeah, that's something that you could take a look at. I think it's, living in Britain, and it's just, there's certainly some lessons, but there's some good humor. With Alex Ferguson, I know you and I have talked about character, but Ivan, why don't you go with a question or two, and then we'll come back to character. You mentioned that several times when we talked before.
Questions, not many questions for myself left. Just I wrote down over the course of this conversation just words, really. Honesty, commitment, in other words, genuine, honored for myself to have met you. Luis, really, I am grateful, and passion you've said a couple times, and not not many times do speaking from my own experience. I'm not that old that I have that much experience, but from the experience I do have, not many times is meeting a group of people, yourself and Haroon, quite life changing. It might be overemphasized, but meeting you guys are really left an impact on myself, and I hope we've done the same. It's just just really grateful.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, honestly, that's great to hear, Ivan. Thank you. Yeah, it's amazing. But it's honestly, it's like I just feel exactly the same thing about you two. Like it was for me life changing, just to see the way you guys work out. And I don't mean work out physically, but even work out physically. I mean, seeing you do that that bleep test with Zach.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention names, but yeah, we're doing that bleep test. Like the heart you showed in that, Jesus, like just impressive. Like, and the whole week was like that.
The beep test for our listeners. Why don't you tell them what that is, Ivan?
Beep test, many versions. A standard version, you just go on YouTube, type in beep test. First link that pops up, also known as the pacer test or bleep test with an L. All it is you have 20 meters. It's around 66 feet. And we do it on 2 courts. You just put cones down and measure out the distance. And there's just a man, pre-recorded voice that says, okay, level 1, and you start running. And it starts at a slow jog. And you get to the line, and you have to get to the line before there's a beep or the man starts the next level, the voice. And gets progressively faster and faster and faster, and you just have to cross the line with a body part, your leg. And there are tips and tricks to it. For example, you should always turn facing one direction so one leg doesn't tire out. How you turn as well to get when the later stages start picking up, let's say level 10, level 11, 12, you're almost sprinting. Really, you are sprinting, and you have to really change directions at a fast rate. So you have to get good at that if you want to get a higher score. And we set standards. For example, a competitive tennis player, let's say male, should be getting 12, 13. That's a great score. Female, maybe 10, 11, 12, even 12 would be great for a girl, boys as well. So the player that you mentioned that I ran it with that one time, he was down here from Canada. He was a great, a top junior there in Canada, and he ran it with me, and we got 13 something. And again, different versions, but you can really just kill yourself with that drill. I mean, you can push yourself until you just black out. I mean,
for the listeners, it's online, it's free. We do have plans to circle back and have notes and take excerpts from our podcast. Actually, it reminds me that we need to get Dave Jordan on as a guest. Like yourself, Luis, he loves tennis. And he's done many, many things in his career in robotics, and he has a talking ball machine. It's fantastic, the Boomer.
Wow.
Has a computer. It's like it has an eye too, because there's a video camera recorded to it. It prints out stats. It's a really amazing machine. And two different times, we've had a prototype, and he's constantly been improving the ball machine. It's a passion of his, but it has the beep test is on the ball machine. So instead of, I say on Netflix, the movie with Marty Fish, corner to corner to corner to corner to corner. And he lost 30 pounds, and he was always a super athlete. He was, I'll say a barroom athlete. You go into a bar and there's some games you have to play. They've always said that Marty Fish is going to be the best, or like he's a super golfer. His forehand wasn't perfect. Nobody has a perfect game, but he just, he got fit at that one point in his life, and all of a sudden, boom, he was number 1 American. But it just goes. He basically talks about you just go side to side to side, and that's what Dave Jordan has on the Boomer. He has a tiebreaker test. It's an honor that he has many things that we teach. talking about character development. He also has, you can, the boomer plays music if you want, but the boomer can trash talk too. With, and I mean, the funny player, the two brothers, Cool Hand Luke, Dual Hand Luke. He had Luke Jensen play at one time. I mean, many years ago when Luke was a younger guy. But yeah, if you go to our course, Tennis Intelligence Applied, the beep test is on that. We touched upon it with Rachel Rohrbacher, a tennis student who's now a champion pickleball player. Erica Oosterhout is on that tape, and she's running well in the beep test. And she just learned grips and swings and body balance positions. And, she was playing soccer with an injury. Then she goes, yeah, okay, I guess I'll play tennis. And then, she ended up playing at Harvard. But yeah, you could pick her out pretty easily seeing her on the beep test. We always say run, hit, compete. I ask kids, okay, what are those three things do you do the best? Run, hit, compete. And, the competitive starts is the mental side. Another way to say that, let's evaluate your game. The mind, the mobility, and the mechanics. Just those three things. But yeah, coming back to Alex Ferguson, character. Let's touch upon that because you and I talked about that. I guess the opener would be that you were shocked about how we address character here.
Yeah, I mean, if if someone asks, or to be honest, I've been summarizing my trip to the visit with you guys, and I think the big thing that stands out is how important character was. So I had been looking at your information and content for a while, for a year, and it was mainly the technical content. But I think when I was there, it was just incredible how everything was almost centered at some point around character, right? Even when we're just doing simple drills, just the way you explain to us, it's like the attitude has to be right. You're going to run backwards. You're going to be facing forward. There's not going to be any talking. It was just brought home every single day with the stories that you would tell. It just seemed like all this information is great, but in a way it becomes almost non-existent if or even worthless to someone who's not willing to do something with the information. And to then do something with the information requires character. So then it started making sense that you have to, as a tennis coach, you have to address character. You have to challenge the character. You have to work on people's character. And then that all comes back to the brain typing. That then makes sense why the brain typing comes into play, because like you were mentioning, if you're sort of more of an introvert, you got to practice on being more of an extrovert. If you're an extrovert, you got to practice more being an introvert. And this is all going into uncomfortable places, right? Changing technique, changing the way you operate, changing who you are. It requires character. So I would say that was the massive illuminating thing in the visit, how important it was.
Reputations on the outside, characters on the inside. You're going someplace with a player if they pick up the most balls during the ball pickup. Coming back to the beep test, if some kid actually, I'd love to have the kids, all right, we're going to do the beep test. We're not going to run. We're going to go backwards. We're going to do the side shuffle the entire time. And, you want to make sure that you're not doing something where, someone can be injured. But if a kid is requesting pain, we put something on Facebook that a dad sent to us, suffer. We always say the word success has 3-letter S's: suffer, struggle, and sacrifice. And hug your racket, look me in the eye, repeat what I just said. I think here in the U.S., a lot of times kids, kill them with kindness. When kids come home, the more they like it, the worse it is. The kid comes home and they're complaining. That means it's a good thing. When you were here, I remember saying, okay, let's go to Los Angeles. We watched a college match with the player that we work with from UCLA. We went to France. We watched some matches from the Les Petits. We watched people that we've worked with when you were here with Haroon. It was the Australian Open, and I was flattered that you called the GreatBase a pot of gold. I think people really they need to take a deep dive. They start to think about the science from Braden and the balance from Van Horn and stats from Jacobson. And they put all the pieces together. It is a system of systems, but the golden rule, just an update, the player from UCLA, a Canadian kid, said that was great for him to hear that, fellow lefty. And I go, yeah, you play the same way. You run around your backhand. You don't make net appearances. Get a compass. You're going the wrong way. And, but to have the players send notes, then you have to, I was on a conference call the other day with 7 people. One of our students has been given a scholarship. He's taken the year off and he hasn't been working very hard. So then a week goes by and I said, well, I know I didn't get my thank you note, but did you write the other 6 people? And then just to follow up, I said, well, I asked you, how often have you gone to the backboard? How far is the backboard from your house? He has the opportunity to practice with someone who won the NCAAs and beat Jimmy Connors at Wimbledon. And I called that person up and Dan Goldie and said, hey, what do you think? And we want to actually interview Dan Goldie's coach, but we're still waiting. I apologize to our listeners. We haven't got the Welby Van Horn book up yet, but Dan Goldie's coach was, he molded his coaching after Welby. There's just so many connections, so much history. But, again, flattered that you called the GreatBase a pot of gold. And let me ask Ivan, Roger Federer's golden rule?
Roger Federer's golden rule, is it, I know a golden rule, it might be his. I remember you talking about this once.
It's not his, but I've heard him say it, that the golden rule is.
Oh, it's nice to be great, but wait, it's nice to be good, but it's good to be nice.
It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And my brother Pat taught me this. The golden rule is he who has the gold rules. And those young players that, with you and Haroon and the others, we were in a room and we were watching a college match with the UCLA, or watching the 14 unders from France, Les Petits, and we're watching the juniors from Australia. And, we've worked with the players that we're talking to you about as we were up here in the mountains in this little classroom that overlooks 3 indoor courts. And the golden rules, he has the gold rules. And, but I think the golden rule that you mentioned earlier is the kid can be cut from a team. And that's where the tail's wagging the dog. And, the too many times in junior tennis, the parent lets the kid be the boss. I wanted to end with one question on Emma, but let's do this. There's a coach from Australia, Trent Cobb. Ivan's going to read his email, and I think we could talk about it because this is right up your alley for us. Certainly I've done a little bit of this and a little bit of that over 50 years, but as I said, we have immersion students. We work with them all day, but this is more about what do you do with students who play for 1 hour. But go ahead, Ivan.
I'm a club coach from Melbourne, Australia. Firstly, I want to thank you for helping myself and many other coaches around the world. I run 2 small clubs in Melbourne, and we cater to the local tennis playing community. Majority of students only play once a week until they get to an entry-level competition stage. I am seeking your advice on how to properly construct a term plan based on a 45-minute group lesson for 10 weeks at various stages of compression ball, red, yellow, green, and red, orange, green, and yellow. Group classes are limited to 5 students per class. Given the low frequency of most players, we want to ensure we are delivering the most effective lessons possible to get players rallying with appropriate grips and swings with the intention of progressing them to local club team competitions. A sample term plan looks like this from a technical standpoint. Week 1, forehand and serve. Week 2, backhand and serve. Week 3, forehand, backhand and serve. Week 4, volleys and serve. Repeat twice over for 2 cycles and keep the remaining 2 weeks as backup weeks in case of inclement weather. Slices are generally not covered until a player is at green stage unless they are playing more frequently. Look forward to hearing your feedback, and thank you for your time, Trent Cobb.
Yeah, so Luis, and you're calling him Lewis, correct?
Yeah.
You're not confused, Luis Lewis. So with a name like Steve Smith, I mean, some people say, well, you can call me Lewis. I know I get your name down. What are your thoughts on that? You do teach adults and juniors, and I think we need to talk more about adults. I think the pace of the lesson changes, but recreational player versus a competitive player, the pace of the lesson changes, but a forehand is still a forehand. But what comes to your mind with that email?
Yeah, I kind of know what he's talking about. That's kind of pretty much most of my sessions. So it's like trying to organize my thoughts here, but my sort of initial reaction is patience, in terms of, because he wants to get them to the rallying stage as quickly as possible, which is completely understandable, because we sort of know that tennis becomes fun once they get there. But from experience and just doing the system, it's like it's worth. It's not that I don't have my kids rally. Like, I definitely get them to rally at some point and have fun, and you can do it with. We did it actually. That was an amazing one as well. That drill that we did with the doubles in the service boxes, and we did it initially with throws. Like when you have two kids throwing to each other, throwing, catching, really they're rallying. That's rallying. So if you have to start with that, and then drop, hit, rallies, but just to be really patient with that, and make sure that they also sort of put in the other stuff, and it looks like they're putting in the forehand, the serves, and it's good. Also, it was good to hear that he's repeating the serve as well. So one thing, because we used to run it like that, my old company, we used to be a little bit less I guess wasn't as good as he was, where we were going week 1 forehand, week 2 backhand, week 3 serve, week 4 volleys, week 5 combination shots, week 6 match play, and then just repeat. But I've definitely gone away from that. I don't do that anymore. And I try to, even if we just shadow swing something, I try to do the volley, the serve every lesson. So they're always practicing volleys. They're always practicing forehand and backhand and serves in every lesson. It doesn't have to be perfect. Do you know what I mean? But you still do some part of that stroke, whether we just shadow swing the serve, whether we just go through the stages on the serve with the word picture method. You add it in every session. I think that's probably, and then just patience on the rally. It will come.
With, I think one thing is homework. Dennis Vandermeer, missionary zeal for practice. You have to get people to practice. With improvement, improvement takes place in stages. And I think people who teach tennis competently have to realize that, okay, you can watch people be a little bit ugly out there. You don't have to, doesn't have to be beautiful. Okay, let's just get them rallying, get them to come back. That, like you said it so well, is that, many people have said once the kid can rally, they're hooked. You got to get them to rally. And you're better off actually to teach rallying skills first, and then come back to technique once you get them hooked. Now for us, the slow motion videotapes we make, I mean, unfortunately, they're very verbose, and you like to eliminate the verbiage and go to vision and the word picture method from Don Leary. But many times the goal-oriented player, the better a player becomes, the more coaches they've heard from. And that's not the case with beginners. But improvement takes place in stages, and like the rally just from the contact point up. Okay, we're just going to go from contact point. Let's go partner tennis, just the language of it. Let's go control 50% tennis. There's no winners. The goal is, can we rally 10? Then can we rally 20? Because once you put a live ball, a dead ball is you just feed out of a basket. But a live ball is when there's interaction, you have people on both sides of the net. And that's where the red, got get it right. The red, the orange, the green dot, they are very good training tools. They slow it down. But years ago, we got people to slow down without those training tools, without those transition balls. But I think the language, the lifting, ground strokes are a lifting motion. Volleys are a pushing motion. And the volleys and the ground strokes, I know we're going to put up a clip on Rachel Rohrbacher, how she learned to play tennis and now she can play pickleball. And this is from Vandermeer, the interrelationship of strokes and interrelationship of spins. The ready position on the forehand side, the ready position is the volley. And the ready position is the backswing for the forehand ground stroke. And I think really the KISS method of Braden, don't underestimate the capacity of the learner, but you do need to simplify. Simplification is sophistication. But you're covering all strokes, but just touch tennis. Jim Verdict, the 10-minute warm-up drill. Okay, we use this language from Oscar Wagner. Find the ball, brush the ball. That's how he teaches a ground stroke. On the volley, find the ball, touch the ball. And you do definitely want to emphasize grips, but say, okay, let's cooperative tennis. Let's start to rally first. And then once they can rally, then they can come back for more. But the gentleman, Trent Cobb, instead of telling people to go to our website, what coaches would be wise to do is take a segment, say it's the explanation of the forehand volley from the GreatBase initiative. And you and I talked about that when you were here, added value, is you take that and you just send them that one clip. Okay? If you're working with a kid once a week, it's like, okay, I've got to do this. I'm going to send a clip out on just the forehand volley. Please watch this. So you don't overload it, but if you could just send them one video, you can't be like, well, they came for the lesson. It's like, no, added value. I'm going to send you. I want you to practice, but I'm going to send you a video each day. Now that takes time. Now another thing. Coming back to Dennis Vandermeer for yourself, if you have the right to use the court next to you, I mean, are you limited to just one court?
Yeah, mostly, but it depends on the date, like time of day. So, for example, on the day and the time, but the weekend and say the evenings in the summer, usually it's just one court. But for example, the camp right now, the daytime, weekday daytime, bad weather, we've literally got 6 courts. No one's on them, so I can spread right out.
Somebody who's been on our podcast has been in our corner for many, many years, Dave Anderson. He was with me 3 years. Then he had autonomy, but he was working in the next town over, and so it ended up being 8 years. Now he gets up every day. He's got to make it work for 20, 25 pros. And it's a culture of private lessons. I mean, they have groups, and it's a country club. It's more affordable than most academies. Are just like astronomical here in the U.S. But Dennis Vandermeer, he was not a big fan of private lessons. I'm not a big fan of private lessons, but it comes down to so many variables. If you can use the court next to that, and then the court next to that, and then so what you can do is you can build a lesson. That's where we're addressing. Trent Cobb's question from Melbourne, that build a lesson. In other words, okay, the ready position is volley. Find the ball, feet, and just touch the ball. And then, so from there, you're really supporting how simple it is, because the ready position is the volley, the ready position is the backswing for the forehand ground stroke. So find the ball, brush the ball. So you're building a lesson and building skill. But you can do that with a program. It sounds like you should have an assistant. And in other words, so now instead of just privates, is that if you could get the person, make it a win-win-win. So that's where the pro can make more money as they grow the program, and the kid gets more court time. They get more, you just say in soccer, they get more touches. They get to be able to hit more balls. But then another thing too is on the technological side, I'm always bad mouthing the telephone with with juniors, I think you could be a little more demanding. They basically, a junior tennis player, they have their schoolwork and their extracurricular pursuit. I mean, I do think the phone for them is a thief of time, but if the player would send the coach film, like, well, no, if you send me the 48-second drill every day, between now and the next lesson, here's your homework. I'll send you a clip. I'd like you to have a look at it. Take you 5 minutes to look at it. And then on the flip side is, this is Vic Braden. He had many pet peeves. He's such a positive guy, but one would be starting with forehands across the baseline. Vic was not a big fan of that. And then people don't even measure, like, okay, the lesson is an hour, and the first 15 minutes of every lesson, you forehands across the baseline. And there was more to it that that's not how the game's played, where you just run one way hitting forehands. I mean, there is a side of it where you can just get lots of reps. Another thing he didn't like was to never say, this is what we're going to cover next time, is you go bell to bell. You teach bell to bell, and no one leaves early. And you said it before we came on air that how important it is to teach during the ball pickup, and have one kid help the other kid. That was one positive thing about your student who came, Arun, is that he was up and he tried to get the others to run. He wasn't negative about it. He said, yeah, come on, join us. We're going to run in the morning. But as he was going through shadow swing routines, the other players who had more time, especially the Canadian boy, he's been in this system since he was 5 or 6 years old. So he was actually very helpful. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting thing to somebody plays once a week. It's just, there's only so many hours in the day. And, then can people be introduced to fellow lesson takers, and people get out and practice. That's one problem, is people don't know how to practice. So you're giving lessons to someone, or say this gentleman in Australia, he's giving lessons, and when they get together, it's let's play. And then the number of balls hit, if someone goes to a backboard, the number of balls hit is phenomenal, like 4-1. So 15 minutes on a backboard is equivalent to an hour balls hit. But if people would just go out and rally, and I think that really has gone away in this country because kids get programmed out. It was actually better if kid would take a private lesson, like a kid learning to play piano. And, you're not going to have your kid take piano lessons if you don't have a piano at home. It just doesn't make any sense. But if the kid's going to take a lesson, they need to get together with a practice partner. And coming back to Vandermeer, that missionary zeal, that was one thing that Dennis used to say about Tom Stowe, who taught Dennis, and he taught Don Budge, famous tennis teacher from years ago, that at his club, people would practice with each other. They'd actually do baskets. I was always telling I always tell kids, get together with a friend and hit 100 overheads. You feed me 10, I'll feed you 10. We'll do 10 sets. Some places they don't let you take more than X amount of balls on the court. So every situation is a little bit different. Let me ask you one other thing with Emma. What an amazing story. I know she's had all sorts of injuries, and I think she's had 3 operations, and very similar to Osaka in some ways. I know Osaka's won 4 majors, and different now that she's a mom and such, but what's your thoughts on that, where she went through so many different coaches, and I think overall she hits the ball well. I mean, she certainly like anybody with a tennis racket needs some help. But what are your thoughts on Emma?
Yeah, I mean, just what sort of I've heard is that, she's gone through a lot of coaches. Not sure, I've not really looked into it, but it sounds like she's sort of trying to sort of take the positive side of that, I think that's maybe the intention. The intention is to sort of use different coaches, because that way you get to, I guess, hear lots of different things, and you can take lots of different things from lots of different people. And I guess, so it seems like almost like an intentional ploy, but
I don't know. Like, I'm a little bit skeptical with that. Like, the way I'm wired is, I'd like to get the best out of one person. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, yeah, how that works for her, or if she will change it at some point with her. You know, because I don't think she's getting the results. I'm pretty sure she's not getting the results she wants. So yeah, whether she'll change her ways. But yeah, she has been unfortunate um with injuries as well. Yeah, and it's interesting as well how, like, yeah, the success was with the coach that she was as a junior um at the US Open. So obviously this coach didn't want to travel, so you know there was no chance really that he was going to work with her after the US Open. You know, she's a pro player, she's going to have to travel, and he wasn't going to travel, so she did have to look somewhere else. But I found that quite interesting that, you know, there seems to be something there where you've got to be able to. I think at the pro game, you've got to be able to connect with the player, with the coach, your player.
I read where her father, it's been intentional. Well, we'll work with this coach and we'll work with that coach. Yeah, I think, you know, maybe a little bit of spice here and a little bit of salt here, but that expression, you know, too many cooks spoil the broth.
Yeah, exactly.
To us, a system is an organized plan. I think, you know, watching her play the other day, it just seemed that she didn't get in the corner and out of the corner. The mobility of players, coming back to the tennis podcast, Rybakina.
Yeah, correct.
What's her first name? Elena?
Yeah, you said it
Why
right.
don't you say it? My Russian's a little better than yours.
Elena Rybakina.
She's an amazing tennis player. And you take the American Coco Gauff and the Polish player Iga Swiatek, amazing tennis players as well. But just the package is that the mobility of Gauff and Swiatek, like, off to the races. I mean, just Ferraris. Now, that's where, from the technical standpoint, can you imagine if either Swiatek or Gauff could move like, or if Rybakina could move like them, and then if they hit the ball like Rybakina. So, you know, we're not saying that any pro needs to do this or do that. You know, we talked about that last week on a podcast. We're going to go sit in section F and eat a hot dog, maybe some popcorn. But yeah, with Emma, I think in the corner, out of the corner, that comes down to fitness and mobility, run, hit, compete, but then also some help on tactics, you know, the directionals. You know, she's on the baseline, the ball gets above her shoulder, and she's tagging it up the line wide. It just makes you wonder. Well, I don't have to wonder. I know that there's not enough charting. You know, where in our country, football is 1, basketball is 2, and kid goes off to college. They're playing Power 5. You know, football and basketball. Men and women, they're not going to, obviously the women don't play football, but they're not going to go 1 minute. They play 1 minute, they're going to see it on film. For years now, we've had students play at big time schools and they're not using film. Now, granted, there's rules. The coaches say, well, we don't have time. Well, you have 4 years, maybe 5. You know, they can only practice so many hours a week, but yeah, I just think also too, the endorsements, you know, that's kind of the information you hear on the tennis podcast. You know, just maybe they're going to talk about, you know, I mean, I don't know where I got the information, but you know, when you're in tennis full time, you know, you hear this and hear that. If the endorsements are up at 60 million, it's like Nishikori at one point was making more money than Nadal. You know, the Japanese market for Osaka. When Sharapova won her first major in 17, she won Wimbledon. Overnight, she had $10 million in endorsements. And then there was another player that same year who won a major and made less than $100,000. So, yeah, I just think, I know Sharapova at one time, you know, very organized, where all her commercials were like one day. You know, every company was like, we're just taking this one day block to do all the commercials, all the cameras, all this, that. It's all done one day. But yeah, it just makes you makes you wonder.
Yeah,
She's
yeah, loads of endorsement deals.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, she did get. I mean, they must have hit her hard. Like she got so many endorsement deals after that U.S. Open. I mean, I, I'm pretty sure that must have been a complete change because you would have gone from a complete unknown junior to suddenly a Grand Slam champion, and then she was everywhere, absolutely everywhere. So, I think your life completely gets spun around.
Fernandez, what's her first name? Layla Fernandez. Actually, a coach brought her sister Bianca to me, made a video, and was just told, like, wow, she, also is so marketable. She did really well with endorsements after that tournament. And Emma Raducanu. She's great in front of the microphone. I mean, what a personality and charming. But I think of Dimitrov, 7 coaches in 7 years. It's like, whoa. People would laugh at us, but at one point, Craig Tyler, whose name comes up quite a bit, he was in on this. We had a sponsor, somebody very wealthy, who was promoting boxers, and he wanted to, trying to think, go international. I think that's what he wanted to call the company, Go International. And he actually sponsored Raven Klaassen. And he sponsored a couple other players. But yeah, it's really interesting coming back to who chooses the coach and such. But I just didn't know from experience, the coaches on the tour, I mean, you can learn from everybody, but it's almost like there's a brain drain at every level. I know Andy Fitzell, he'll say they're guessing. They're just guessing. Where that's where to have fact-based instruction. I think Andy would be happy to hear me say that because many times, he says, Steve, you don't want to pigeonhole the GreatBase. I mean, the GreatBase, it really should be kids, like say it all the time, the Jesuits in education, just give us the first 7 years. One thing on drilling, it ties a little bit with getting people to practice, or the person comes out for one lesson a week. Yvonne was part of this the other day. It just worked out where the high school players had come. It was Super Bowl Sunday, and that's like a national holiday in America. And the group dynamics is only part of the team showed up, and each player who showed up, they could already rally. They could hit the ball, and they could actually play. But within the group, we've had beginners as well, complete beginners. So they each had a partner, and they loved it. They started off with baseball tennis. We said, okay, you be the human ball machine. You just catch and throw. And I mean, this goes back for me 40 years ago, where you're more accurate with your hand. You get 2 players of the same athletic ability. The person who's throwing the ball generally wins. I know I have 2 boys who were 18 months apart. When they were younger, they weren't good enough to play racket to racket. So no, you catch and throw. And when they're really young, you throw underhand. But then you throw overhand, you're working on your serve. And they have fun with it. It's athletic, and they're actually learning strategy. They're really learning good defense. You tell them this is basically a baseline game. So we did that. Then we said, okay, we're playing 1 bounce doubles. Okay, no, you just get 1 serve. The returner has to come in. There's no poaching, and there's no winners. And you keep going. There's no lobs. And then all of a sudden, it's just. I just think of
everyone had rackets though.
No, this is where they all have rackets. They all have rackets. Now, for the listeners, what you referred to earlier is the simplest way that we teach doubles is all 4 start with no racket. It's just throw, catch, hop.
That game is called 1 bounce doubles. I forgot about that. So what we did was called one bounce doubles. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I forgot.
Well, what we did, we talked about it earlier, is build a lesson. Is that, it is absolutely sad, tragic, the way kids play doubles. They start at the baseline. They're playing 1 up, 1 back. They got the wrong grips. They don't know where to stand. Palm up serves, and there's a trophy. And it's like, oh my word. So listeners, what we do is we have people throw, going through the body balance position. And, that it's going to be a throwing motion, which is very close to a service motion. And then it's the only person who throws as a server. So they all start up at the service line. The server throws, and then the ball bounces, and it only bounces once, and everybody catches it. They catch it with two hands. And older players, 18-year-old kids, have fun with this drill. And okay, the serve goes cross court, the return goes cross court, the first volley goes cross court, and then you play hot potato to the middle. And then don't drop the ball, don't drop the ball. And they're moving their feet. And you no hot shots, no tossing behind the back, and just this is what we're doing. And then, again, listeners, you don't necessarily have to have a visual on this. The two people on the other side have rackets. So the human ball machine, again, you can call it baseball tennis. You're going to throw and catch. And, kids today throw and catch. Now, years ago, the Americans had a leg up because we threw footballs and baseballs. Where the Europeans and South Americans, they had a leg up because they played football. They played with their feet, soccer. So then the two players without a racket, they throw catch, and they only toss to the forehand volley, just to the forehand volley. And they're doing it as partner doubles because they can't volley yet. But then you're getting the reps in. And then they're learning a game. They're learning the service motion. They're learning, a short compact swing on the return. Then you just go to the forehand volley. Then you rotate around, and everybody gets a chance in each roll. And you say, okay, now let's do it. We just toss to the backhand volley. But that's where there's no instant gratification. There's really, to do it right, there's no instant tennis if you want to teach people to do it well. Another drill we did with that group is 50% tennis. No winners. Playing singles. We've said this on the podcast before, Luis. Why can people go out and say, okay, let's rally 4 balls and play it out, rally 6 balls, play it out, rally 8 balls, play it out, and then it's non-competitive, competitive, and then you say go play, and that's one thing about back in the good old days with wooden rackets is people weren't just trying to blast winners from everywhere. I mean, most of the kids who come to see us, if they could just learn to be loose in their shoulders, just let the racket free fall, because they don't get the racket below the ball, and they're just teeing off on it. What else you got, Luis? What else you got, Ivan? Anything?
I actually do have one question I was going to ask you guys. Because it was something I was meant to ask you when I was there, but I completely forgot. And I think it might be good for other coaches in case they're in the same position as I am, that I'm not sure. When you guys feed courtesy balls to your students, what grip are you? Are you guys on the forehand grip between 2 and 3? The forehand volley grip between 2 and 3, or are you on forehand? Because I was, because that was the big thing for my volley. You were taught to volley chopper grip, and so I swing down on my volley. So then it just dawned on me as well that maybe I'm feeding the courtesy with chopper grip, and I shouldn't be.
Are you saying chopper grip?
Yeah,
chopper grip.
Is that not?
I've never heard that.
Oh, sorry, you guys call it continental.
Continental, but I've never heard that. But the late Bud Collins. Love Collins.
It's a really bad name for it, I think.
Yeah. Bud Collins used to say there's 2 types of tennis players: those who play Wimbledon, those don't. Everybody else is a hacker. Where did that term come from?
I literally just became aware that I'm calling it chopper, and probably is the worst name for it. Yeah, continental grip.
A continental grip opens the racket face at 45-degree angle. That's where if people do the tennis math. You turn the racket 8 times, it's 360 degrees, divide by 8, 45 degrees every time you change your knuckle. And I mean, it's just amazing how many people are taught inefficiently. But no, from a feeding standpoint, you want to comment on it, Ivan, first?
Yeah, I can comment on it. We have players come here, and we've said this many times on podcasts. We can tell right away if a player goes to an academy we ask them to feed, and then they stand on the wrong side of the basket. Players that feed with our righties, hip basket on the left hip, and when they feed, they almost all players, I'd say more male players, boys, feed the underhand, kind of like just an underhand, have a continental, a chopper grip, and they just feed it like that. But we tell players that come here, well, you can and should be working on your stroke at the same time. So we say, take this as a drop, as if you're drop feeding a ball. So just turn, get underneath the ball, sit, lift, and hold your balance. And the ball comes off more of a realistic ball, has some topspin on it. You're not cranking it, you're just hitting it to a target, and you get to work on your own forehand. There are other ways of feeding where you choke up on the grip and you fire the balls fast. For example, if you have 3 kids in a volley drill or even at the baseline, you just want to feed all 3 of them. And
how's that go?
So different ways of feeding, but we recommend, especially if you're feeding kids from the baseline, just work on your ground stroke, work on your forehand, and drop feed it like it's a normal forehand.
One thing I'm grateful that Ivan said that about the ball basket. You get a righty, you say go feed balls, and they don't have the hip, they don't have the basket on their left hip, and if you listeners think about this, they have to get a basket. They get one ball and they walk away from the basket. One ball, walk away from the basket. Well, that's a light bulb moment. That's okay, let's jump on this, and that's a character lesson. Hey kid, come here for a minute. You're not a tennis player. There's no way you're a tennis player. There was a comedian, Jeff Foxworthy, and he wrote an article, or excuse me, I wrote the article. His material as a comic on stage, you're a redneck if. You're a redneck if they're reading your wedding vows and out of your corner of your right eye, you're watching football on ESPN. So there's just so many of them to be a redneck. But so I tell kids, if you can't string a racket, you're not a tennis player. If you can't jump rope, you're not a tennis player. I mean, like a tennis player. Like Welby Van Horn would say, 95% of people play at tennis, 5% of people play tennis. Most people really, when you get right down to it, they haven't really even seen high-level tennis. They have on TV. But if they've really seen people practice and train, all these kids aspiring to play college tennis, they really haven't even seen college tennis. But I know that when I got into tennis, there's many things that coaches tried to do: a ready position, a unit turn. There was a backswing, there's a downswing, there's a contact point. There was a shortage of information where people were trying to teach. I would say now, a lot of times they're not even trying to teach. I mean, kids don't even know the ready position. I mean, are you kidding me? That's how you wait with a racket? That's the grip you use? I mean, it's not easy. It's not light. It's a really heavy duty problem. But with feeding, we tell players, feed with a forehand grip. Definitely feed like you're working on your own forehand, and you can do that. Now, a teaching pro, like for myself, I feel like I gave a course on feeding. There's so many different ways to feed. I think people, like the Spaniards, they want you to toss, if they don't want you to toss across your body, toss with your right hand, toss with your left hand. And like Dennis Vandermeer would stop if someone throws the ball overhand. You want them to toss underhand because of the flight pattern. The ball's going to have an arc to it, the way it bounces. So there's so many things to be said about feeding. But if you teach a lot of tennis, it's not necessarily good for your game if you're feeding with a continental grip. But I do think that I know I feed with a continental grip, and but I'm not so interested in improving my game at this point. So I think the Peter Burwash line, I use it all the time: be 2% selfish and work on your feeding. I mean, you in certain situations, you can have kids. We have kids drop hit underspin backhands every day, and then when do they use that in a match? Like every day we do this for a few minutes, just a few minutes. We're drop hitting underspin backhands. And do you ever think about Love 40? They're hitting a serve out to your backhand in the ad court. You're a righty. You're going to take an underspin backhand. So we try to create a way to have people feed that ball, feed it that way. To have a kid toss the ball in the corner. Right. They toss the ball in the corner and they're going to feed a backhand lob. well, yeah, we know you're a two-hander, but it's going to be many times we have to hit a one-handed lob. So I think that's where, and it's fun for us to talk tennis to you. It's fun for us to know that you stumbled upon the GreatBase. And I would say this, with that, once people have a handle on the information, like say with Braden, for example, if people have really studied Braden, and certainly it would be better if they could have been around Vic in person, but there's, you can find films. I mean, he has books. And if you use that information, I tell people you could learn more working away from Vic Braden. Say if you go and you were fortunate enough, a week is not very long, but if I tell you a story that Vic one time, I went through his program 10 times. I went as a student, I worked the program, then I took students to the program. He had an academy called the USTA, United States Tennis Academy. So he has a second book come out, great book, teaching children tennis the Vic Braden way. He gives everybody a copy. And one guy, a little belligerent, obnoxious, he raises his hand and said, "Why didn't you send this book to us? Why didn't we get this book before the course started?" And Vic said, "I'm giving you the book as a gift to give someone else." I would have guessed if you got an airplane, rented a car, checked into a hotel, plus you paid the fee for the course, that you'd have already read the book before you came. And, what a perfect answer. And I was with Vic a few times where he backed into the corner. I can remember it was like Beatlemania at the US Open, and he was huge. And I was with him many times where I started answering questions because he was just swarmed by people. And he was very good friends with Tony Trabert, great player from Cincinnati, #1 in the world. Before Michael Chang came along in '89, he won the French in '55. There was no American between '55 and '89. And this guy started giving Vic a hard time about Tracy Austin. Well, Tony Trabert says. And Vic basically said, "I love Tony Trabert. Ask him what I know and what he knows." And it was over Tracy Austin. And then if you want to, I'll give you Tracy's phone number. She was still a teenager. She was won the 16s. Actually, he said, "I'll give you Jean, the mother. I'll give you Jean's phone number. Next question." It's just like, but many times he was Santa Claus. He was the jolly green giant who wasn't a giant. But so feeding, that's where be a little bit selfish and work on your own forehand. And you'll find right away, Yvonne said it, the player won't have a loop. They won't keep the racket up high. And I used to just write this on a blackboard, made it a lecture class, higher, longer. So teaching ground strokes, why do you keep the racket higher, longer? Dimensions, it's like 20 reasons, like boom, 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 boom. The dimensions of the court, you want a vertical swing, racket hit speed, synchronization with the body, rhythm. So when a kid's feeding balls, it's like the coach needs to be snapping at them. And then I think also too is like coming back to a gentleman from Australia. His name is Trent Cobb. Is that right?
Correct.
So you and Trent, for example, is that you have to, in teaching people to practice, do that in your lesson. Hey, let me teach you how to feed. And then you have to be Dennis Vander Missioner. So here's call this person up, do baskets with them. And it can be they just show up with a little knapsack and they've got 20 balls in the basket. That comes back to, like say, for example, it's great how you're so open and, struggling with get people to get a palm down serve. Well, wouldn't it be nice if you had on, say it's a right-hander, so around the right sleeve, you have a number of how many times they hit a palm up serve. And then on the left sleeve, you have a number of how many times they hit a palm down serve. And it's overwhelming how many times people do something the wrong way. Just overwhelming. And all these tennis coaches, Jim Lair, it takes a stick of dynamite. And just how you say it takes a stick of dynamite for people to change. And you mentioned it, like in English football, if a kid can get cut, hey, the coach says you got to do this, or you're going to be cut off the team. We say it all the time: the connection between the bench and the brain. And the tennis kid is like, I'm going to do it my way. We call it the Frank Sinatra tennis player. That song, I did it my way. And, but, I think also too, one last thing to come back to that is, it's not that expensive to get one of these tripods about the same size as a mic, and have the kid, adult too, treat the adults like juniors and the juniors like adults. Hey, Betty, if you really want to get better, you get this small tripod, you put it on your kitchen counter, and you film yourself and you send it to me. And, people are doing that. The teacher finds, the great teachers have the passion. They find time to keep doing the extras. Luis, it's been great to have you on the phone. Great to meet you in person. You and Haroon, it's great to have you visit. And great to have you as a guest. Great to have you as a guest on the podcast.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, as always, great pleasure. Great pleasure visiting you. Thank you very much.
Let's just go over that. Go over that one thing I put on video. I consider myself an outlier when it comes to video. Tell me how I pleased your wife on video.
So there's a moment. So I think we were doing the post video, and it was me and Elise, and you give Elise a high five, and you go, "Thank you for teaching Lewis, the strokes and all this," and then you turn around to me, and then you go, "Right, repeat after me." And I'm ready to repeat after you, and then you start with, "Dear wife." I said, I was like, "I repeat after you, dear wife. Thank you for letting me come over to camp." She loved it. Yeah, I think for that reason, I think I'm definitely allowed another visit for sure.
That's good. Not many 30.
Just unfortunately not 3 months like Haroon, not 18 anymore.
Yeah, not too many 38-year-olds with 2 kids get to go off to tennis camp. But that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
My next thing would be, just looking at doing this camp for the 2 days, just some of them I've been teaching so long, and I think it'll be a great visit. I'm gonna speak to the parents, and when go over, I don't know. I think I'd probably love to go over with them. So I'm gonna work on that. I think they'll really get loads out of it. You guys. Yeah.
I was just saying over the years, you got to go back to the well, and it's a well of information. We're up on a mountainside. We say a mountain of information. And it's not our information. It's just information that we've gathered. We've done homework. So you could make it a working vacation where you as a coach, you can just do it where you're paid from the monies that you generate and bringing people over. But also, too, the GreatBase, we need to, I think Sophia Patel, she'll be a big help here. Network coordinator. I've been to England many times. I've been there a long time, but I would love to help out in any way I can with the information we have to share.
That's amazing.
Go ahead, Ivan. Anything to say, young man?
No, just grateful to be part of this podcast. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Lewis. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I still got to watch Lord of the Rings as well. I'm on top of that mountain, Haroon and Ivan started having a conversation about Lord of the Rings. I've never watched it. Never really had a desire to watch it. And the way you guys spoke about it, I was like, it sounds amazing. How have I not watched this? I've got to watch this.
Yeah, it's great.
I think there's many shocked people probably got, this guy hasn't watched Lord of the Rings. I definitely need to do that.
Did you ever watch Star Wars?
Yeah, I did. It took me a long time to actually watch it, and I'd say I think it was my son actually. That was it. It was my son was into it, and so he was probably about 9. So about 6 years ago, I finally sat down and watched it. Yeah.
I've never seen one second. I've never seen 1 second of Star Wars. But I know Andy Fitzgerald told me that it would make me more knowledgeable coach if I were to study Star Wars. But
it's right.
There's a lot of great things out there. It's just not enough time in the day. But
Yeah.
Luis, this
That
has
was
been
another thing I completely ran out of time on was the books in your. I was like, you showed us that on the last day. I was like, oh, if only I would have known this in the first day. Those books are unbelievable. The amount of books and the subjects on it is crazy.
Yeah, we have a
Next time I'm definitely through them.
we have a very extensive library of tennis books. With no, it's been a great session. It's one of these sessions for our listeners. If you could just find 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, you could get through this podcast and be ready for the following week. I do know that there's people that have listened to every podcast. So, like Luis.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you. This has been great. Let me ask you, what time is it in England right now?
What time is it? Let me have a look. It's 1:42 in the morning.
Oh,
Whoa.
passion. And you got to get up and give how many lessons tomorrow? How many hours?
Tomorrow I've got 5 at Brockwell and then 3 at my club, so 8 tomorrow, 8 hours.
Well, I
honestly,
apologize on behalf of Ivan. It's all his fault. But no, Luis, get some shut eye, and I know with your passion you can pull through tomorrow.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
All right, all the best, mate.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, bro.
Adios.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you. Take
See
care.
ya.
Take care.
Ivan, you refer to yourself as young. Look at the camera, Ivan. People need to realize that the reason we have these on YouTube is so people can guess my age. I have kids guess my age, 104. But here's the kicker: is that beer to me is liquid bread. But it's gonna have some people over to watch the Super Bowl, so I go down to the country store here, and Wintergreen, and I can't. It's amazing. I got this woman to laugh, so I buy some beer, and she said, "Do you have your ID?" I said, "You have to be kidding me." I said, "I don't have any ID with me. I had some cash to pay for it." She said, "You have to have your ID." I said, "Well, let me do this." I took my hat off. And I said, "Is that good enough?" And she said, "Tell me your birthday and I'll let you buy the beer." So I thought I was going to have to go back up to, it's only like a mile away or whatever. But she asked me, I said, "Are you kidding me?" Ask me my age. Ivan, give me the high five. Another podcast in the books, 184. Thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you.
Luis, what a great guy. Great for the game and her room as well. Super, super guy. So fortunate to have them visit. Good night. Adios, amigos.
Adios.